Content warning. The movie discussed in this episode contains themes of sexual assault, religious persecution, fantasy racism, sexism, and just general stupidity. Also, spoilers for the entire Dragonlance franchise.
Do you want to do the intro or should I?
What was our intro again?
I think our intro was just hi, and then I think our intro was just hi.
Hi.
And then yeah, it's been a while.
Just hi, this is the intro. Hello.
Hello. Hi, I'm intro.
Yes, we're both intro. Collectively.
Yep.
It's a hive mind situation.
This is the epitome of our socialist beliefs, where there is no singular intro, there is no singular anime opening. We are all anime opening on this blessed day.
I don't even watch enough anime to really be a part of this though. I vibe with them, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I should just watch the anime openings. I feel like then I would get the entire experience of anime.
You know, on one hand, you're not wrong. But on the other hand, like with the Avatar episode, you've just made a lot of people mad.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you have.
Okay, what's the best part about every anime? The opening.
The characters?
No, the opening.
The animation?
Animation.
The music?
In the opening. In the opening. The opening is always the highlight in anime, so.
It depends sometimes. You know, I have seen some good animes that have really bad openings.
Oh, that would be weird. But I'm sure they exist.
like It Invaded. Great series. Good opening song. Decent visuals for the opening, but overall the opening just doesn't really come together. Great show, though.
Yeah. That's true. But I still stand by my stance, so I respectfully disagree with that.
I mean, that's fine. You know, you're allowed to be wrong.
I am allowed to be wrong, and I will be as wrong as I can.
You're only 23. You have time to make up for your mistakes.
Actually, I'm not 23 yet.
The fact that you think the openings are the only good part of anime actually ages you a year into boomerdom.
Oh, really? No.
Yeah.
No, because see that... No. I'm not like an anime hater. Okay? I'm an anime enjoyer. Like, I enjoy anime.
Insert that one meme where it's like the average thing fan, average thing enjoyer.
Yeah, I'm an anime enjoyer. I may not know all the volumes that it's based off of, or I may not know all the anime shows or everything like that, but I know good content when I see it, and sometimes that content is anime.
That's deep.
It is deep. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Hey, yeah, no problem. I do want my money back, though.
It was free.
Still, taxation is theft. Give me my money.
True that. Can't argue there. Okay.
Okay.
So, we have a very special movie to discuss.
Yes. Today, we are counting down the top 10 Dragonlance, the movie.
Dragonlance, the movie. I can't think of a worse movie off the top of my head right now.
I can, but I also have seen more than you, so...
Yes, and also this is the one movie I had on my mind today, so technically I'm still right.
Okay.
So... Yeah.
Dragonland...
No, you should, because you're obviously the Dragonlance expert here.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
So, Dragonlance, the movie, is a 2008 direct-to-DVD animated film brought to us by Toon Boom Studios and based on the novel Dungeons & Dragons, Dragonlance, Dragons in Autumn Twilight, which is almost as much of a mouthful as the title as Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
That is a huge title. I can't believe they didn't leave that entire yeah, that's a word. Entire title in the animated movie.
Well, you see, funny thing about that, so in initial copies of the animated movie, it couldn't actually use the Dungeons & Dragons branding anywhere due to the movie licensing agreement that led to the live-action D&D movie.
Oh.
I discovered in my research.
So, to get the full context, we should have both watched the live-action D&D movie.
Well, to get the full context, we probably should have read the book this movie is based on.
Yeah.
But I don't have enough time for, like, a 300-page fantasy novel, so...
Like, who reads anymore?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no one reads.
Yeah. By the way, buy my visual novel.
Mm-hmm.
Available now on itch.io.
Yeah, buy her novel, please.
So Dragonlance is a very old segment of the Dungeons & Dragons library of settings and storylines. It has been around since 3rd edition D&D, which for those of you who don't play D&D, we are currently on the 5th edition, and 3rd edition was around like a very long time ago. It's very old. And Dragonlance is also very important to D&D because it was the trilogy that this movie was in part based on was the first Dungeons & Dragons novel series.
Ooh.
Now, granted, it was not the first Dungeons & Dragons novels. There were a few before that. But Dragonlance was the first one that was explicitly conceived as, like, multiple books in a row, rather than just kind of stumbling into that. And it was basically, like, the best received of the books at the time, which is part of why it ended up it started a series and its own, like, mini D&D setting. So there was, like, a lot of lore and a lot of stuff going on with the Dragonlance setting.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's mostly fallen out of the public eye today, but even back in the early 2000s, it was still poppin'. Like, it was basically kind of its own separate game line from Dungeons & Dragons for a while, again, due to the legal difficulties caused by the movie license. Like, it had its own source books printed, it had its own monster manuals. Like, this was a fairly big thing, and it got a module for the first Neverwinter Nights, and the second, I don't remember exactly, but for one of the Neverwinter Nights games actually had a module, like a full piece of downloadable content dedicated just to the Dragonlance setting.
That's impressive. I mean, so would you say that this is like very similar to like mainstay D&D, or is it like very much its own thing now? Like,
I guess it depends on how you define mainstay D&D. Do you mean like the Forgotten Realms setting?
yeah, kind of like that setting. Does it still play kind of like how D&D
yeah.
works?
Oh yeah, it still used like the rule set and everything. It was just like it was still like made by the same company that made D&D. It was just for the sake of not giving the movie rights away, they kind of took the D&D branding off of it.
I see. Okay.
That said, there is a difference in like the tone of the Dragonlance setting versus Forgotten Realms.
Sorry, I sneezed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, accurate reaction.
Dragonlance, how dare you? How could you make me sneeze like that?
So, I don't know. Do you think I should get into the details of what makes the Dragonlance setting different now, or wait until we're deeper into the movie?
Well, I guess if you could give it, like, a pretty brief description of, like, what makes it different. Just, like, a few examples. That way we know what we're getting into.
Okay.
Here.
So you have the Forgotten Realms, which is, like, the default setting of D&D now. It's fairly standard fantasy, but it's fairly standard fantasy. You have, like, realistic stuff, semi-realistic stuff going on and whatnot. The difference isn't so much that Dragonlance, like, subverts a bunch of fantasy tropes or is deliberately weird, like Planescape and that space pirate one, the Spelljammers, that's what it's called.
Right.
Couldn't remember the name for a second.
Yeah.
Instead, it kind of doubles down on the fantasy tropes. So it's much more inspired by like romantic tales of chivalry, like from France and England and such. And so that's kind of the main qualifier of the Dragonlance setting. It's much more concerned with like old school chivalry and like ancient romantic storytelling tropes and stuff like that.
So basically it's more like what your average person would think a fantasy game is.
a little, but it's like more, I don't want to say refined, but it's a more kind of classical flavor of fantasy.
Right, it's definitely like a more classical type of fantasy where it's like...
Yeah, like one step before Lord of the Rings in terms of where the fantasy genre was, basically.
Right. So would you say this definitely paved the way for Lord of the Rings, or it's just like...
Well, Lord of the Rings came out around World War II.
I know.
And Dragonlance started in the 90s, so yes, I do think Dragonlance did pave the road for Lord of the Rings, honestly.
Yeah, honestly. It's like, yeah. Percy...
Dragonlance...
Is it Peter Jackson, not Percy Jackson. What? That's a different fantasy franchise. Yeah, Peter Jackson definitely looked at Dragonlance and was like, yeah, this is basically what I'm gonna do Lord of the Rings.
Like, Legolas? Who needs that? Nah, my Legolas is cool. He's gonna be like Tannis.
Yeah.
From Dragonlance.
Yeah, definitely.
So, in 2008, for whatever reason, an animated movie was created based on the first novel. And it was developed by I say developed, but, it was, like, animated and produced by a company called Toon Boom Animation. The writer and directors have a decent... They're different people, but the writer, I think at least, has a very decent portfolio of work.
Oh.
He's been a storyboard artist on a lot of good shows, especially from, like, the Saturday morning cartoon boom.
Okay.
That said... His main writing and directing credits are from things like Street Fighter the Animated Series. Which, if you know anything about that, is a very bad sign.
What are you talking about? That show was great. That was sarcasm. It's
So, Toon Boom is, from what I can tell, a animation studio mostly based in India that has been involved, besides Dragonlance, they did the animation for the second season of Speed Racer The Next Generation, which looks noticeably worse than the first season. Which, considering that both seasons were animated on Flash, is really saying something. Like, early 2000s Flash, especially.
Yikes.
They made a separate direct-to-DVD Speed Racer movie, which I haven't watched, but I want to at some point. And their most famous claim to fame is, funnily enough, Wolverine and the X-Men.
Oh, really?
Yes, they did the animation for Wolverine and the X-Men.
Oh.
Which you would not be able to tell based on literally any other thing they've ever done.
Yeah, because, like, this movie and Wolverine and the X-Men, not even remotely like in their animation.
Oh, no.
In fact, like, you said that this movie was made in 2008?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
I can look it up, but if not 2008, then 2006.
Because, like, even 2006, this animation looks like...
Yeah, no, 2008.
2008, okay. I just want to paint the picture. So this movie does not look like it was animated in 2008.
No,
This
it does not.
Animation looks like it came out of the early 90s, and that's being generous. It's like, it's not even, like, because when I think of animation in the 2000s, that is not what I think of. It is like, I feel like animation had evolved a lot, like, it made considerable improvements than from when that movie was released. Yeah.
It's a throwback, just like the Dragonlance franchise as a whole. It was an intentional artistic choice, Sam. Come on.
Was it? I don't know about
Yes.
that. Also, that's funny. It was released in 2008, so it could have been made like years prior for
definitely.
for whatever reason, but
I wouldn't say the 90s based on the voice cast.
Right.
But, animated movies do take a long time, so it's reasonable to assume that it was being made around 2007-06.
But speaking of Wolverine and the X-Men, I'm pretty sure that was released in 2009. Hold on. Wait, Wolverine and the X-Men animated series. Yep, 2009.
Wow.
Yeah. So if anything...
What a glow up followed by an immediate crash and burn.
Yeah, that's like... Damn. But if you compared those two shows together, they look like they were made like decades apart.
They do.
They do.
Really do.
So to think about that they came from the same animation studio is just, it's jarring. It's jarring. I didn't know that when we watched this movie, and wow. Yeah, it's pretty jarring.
And on that note, I think we've done enough preamble. I think it's time we actually get into the lancing of the dragon.
The lancing of the dragon. Oh god.
Something that does not actually happen in the Dragonlance movie.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Dragonlance movie.
So, the Dragonlance movie opens on this flaming CGI dragon. It's on fire for some reason, and then it gets stabbed by a glowing lance. It's chased by light that turns into a magic lance, and then it lances the dragon. But it's unclear if this is like a flashback to something that happened in the past, or if it's just like the lead into the logo, because the wisps of energy that come off of the lance, like, in a really cheesy way, forms the logo of the movie. And it's never and like, this whole thing is never mentioned again, and it's never explained why there was a dragon that was on fire.
Yeah, and also, not to mention that it's done with, like, terrible 3D animation as
well.
well.
Yeah, awful.
Like,
it's running at, like, 3 frames per second.
This is the only part that makes me think it could have been animated anywhere in the decade of 2000, but definitely not towards the latter half.
No. So, on the wings of that terrible CG dragon, we cut to a bunch of other terrible CG dragons flying over a landscape that looks like it comes from an early Xbox 360 game.
Mm-hmm.
There's an elf village that's being attacked by bad guys as the opening credits play in impact font.
Yeah.
For some reason, one of the cast members' names has like a diegetic fade in where it's like they pan over a pole, and as they pan past the pole, it was like the pole was hiding the guy's name, and he's the only name they do that for. Everyone else just has a normal fade in, fade out on the screen.
It's like they attempted to make it look cool, but gave up.
And then gave up after the first
that
one.
because they're like, this is too hard. Just
like inconsistency and things being not as clear as they should be is going to be a theme for this movie.
Yeah. Also, should we talk about some of the cast members that are in this movie?
We'll talk about the cast members when we get to the tavern.
Oh, you want to? Okay, so you want to wait till like we actually meet everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because that leads into another point about things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is called foreshadowing in this business. We like to lead our listening audience along.
Yeah.
Yeah, make you want for something more. Specifically Dave, who according to our website is the only follower on our followers page.
Right.
Shout outs to you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. You're really cool.
We love you, Dave.
Yeah.
So we
one more
so
thing.
We then,
just based off of the opening. You know, you may be wondering, who is this movie for? Is this for fans of the novel? Is this for kids? Is this for adults? Is this like one of those like direct-to-DVD like animated movies for mature audiences? And you never get a clear answer because it's very confused on what it wants to be.
Yeah.
It really is. At times, the humor is, like, so lowbrow that, like, only children could laugh at it. But then you have, like, someone getting, like, stabbed to death.
Their arm chopped off.
Yeah, or their arm chopped off. And you very much see the animated blood there. And you're like, so is this a kid's movie? Or is this, like, for mature audiences? Maybe it's just for very passionate Dragonlance fans.
In 2008, when the franchise was kind of in its hibernation period.
Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know who this movie's supposed to be for. I don't think the creative team really knows either. They just kind of made a movie.
Sam, it's for us.
Yeah, it's
they
definitely
made this
for
movie
us.
For us.
Definitely for us. Yes.
So we cut to a bunch of slaves being gathered into one place, and it looks like that one shot from Shrek.
Yeah.
And this isn't really brought up again, so then a bird leads us to the starter town of the movie. This old wizard guy, not Gandalf, enters the tavern and meets with this orange-haired barmaid. The barmaid's bored, so she asks not Gandalf to tell her a story, and not Gandalf goes, "Oh yes, the stars!"
The stars. We're going to talk about the stars, because they're plot important.
They are. For 3 scenes.
Mm-hmm. Also, I don't know if this is for sure, but I feel like the barmaiden was meant to be a more important character than she is here.
She is. Don't worry, you'll definitely get to hear about her.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, she actually has a name, but I only think they use it in the final 40 minutes of the movie.
And the only reason I bring that up is because she's really only here in the beginning and the end of the movie. That's it.
There's a lot of characters who are like that.
Yeah, including not Gandalf here. I mean, yeah. But I guess Riley will get into that later.
Yes. Stop spoiling the movie, Sam.
I'm not spoiling the movie. I'm going through it just as you are. And things that come to my mind, I'm going to bring up.
So, not Gandalf, or not Elmstar, if you're a nerd, gives us this massive exposition dump. So get ready for this. Mm-hmm. So 300 years ago, the Gods of Light, who all look like they should be on the side of a hippie van based on their designs, watched over the world of Krynn and did all this, like, really good miracle stuff, like, as depicted in this movie, growing pumpkins for people to eat.
Yeah, pumpkins, you know? That's what everyone in the medieval times ate. Just pumpkin pie, pumpkin muffins, pumpkin spice lattes, you know.
And they were also the power behind healing, which is just normal cleric stuff.
My theory is the pumpkins healed them.
Unfortunately, the gods are gone now, and they have taken the healing power with them. They never say whether they've taken the pumpkins with them, but we never get a clear answer, so it doesn't look good.
Yeah, and through this sequence, you get to see more bad 3D animation of dragons and this terrible 2D animation overlay of it.
Gandalf goes on to explain that the good gods fought an evil god named Takesis, who is this multi-headed dragon that ran the poorly animated dragon army. And from now on, I'm just going to call her Makuta, because that's basically what she is. She would have destroyed the world, but everyone prayed so hard to the good gods that they stopped the bad gods, and it worked. And I'm not exaggerating. That's what the movie says flat out. But then, everyone got arrogant and, I quote, demanded the gods to do their bidding. The movie never goes on to explain what exactly the people asked the gods to do. But whatever it was, the gods hated it so much that they threw an asteroid at the planet and said, screw you, we're leaving.
Oh, gods. Such divas.
Yeah, they just threw an asteroid at the planet. Like, it caused this massive apocalypse to the point where there's still smoke flying up from it today into space.
You could see it from poorly animated space.
Yeah, you could see it from poorly animated space.
Yeah.
And
it's horrifying.
And so apparently the whole point of throwing an asteroid at the planet and killing millions of people was to teach everyone a lesson about humility. But, you know, because the gods threw a freaking asteroid at the planet, everyone decided to not worship the gods anymore. Because they threw an asteroid at the planet and killed millions of people. As a direct result, there were wars, which is visualized by someone getting shot by arrows, then two guys running up over that guy's dead body, fighting for 2 seconds,
and then they themselves, shot by arrows.
Yeah, and then they get shot by arrows and immediately die.
It's like the classic meet cute, get murdered.
And then, Makuta has returned, and she, I just wrote my notes poorly here. So then we cut to a castle, and we discover that, Makuta has returned.
Yeah.
And she has enlisted the help of High Lord Verminard. Yes, his name is Verminard.
He's basically a massive simp, if you just want to get, like, his personality trait down to a T. He just simps for her.
What personality? He's not in the movie enough for him to have a personality.
Yeah,
that's traits to go along with it.
That's the sole personality he gets. He's just a massive simp.
He's this, like, Shao Kahn-looking knockoff who has a dumb skull helmet and a matching chest plate. And unfortunately, he is the best designed character in the movie. It's established
do
here
not
that
agree with that. I think every design here sucks, but
every design here sucks, but I think his design sucks the least.
His, like, it just looks like generic evil person cosplay, honestly. That's what
you're right.
It looks like. He looks like a villain off of He-Man. That's
You're not wrong. And again, he doesn't look good. I just think he looks better than everyone else by comparison.
Okay, I guess I could see that just by the campiness of it. Like,
right.
Yeah.
So it's stated that the northern lands are the only lands that remained unconquered. We're never really given a geographical location of where things are, so what the northern lands are supposed to be, I'm not entirely sure. But But basically, their conquest seems almost assured, but they need to recover the first of this movie's several MacGuffins, the Staff, because apparently it can reawaken the gods of light, because they're sleeping, even though they left.
Yeah.
Also, there's this weird dream filter over the scene that I think is supposed to be smoke, but it looks awful.
Yeah.
Verminard sends his second-in-command, Skimpy Bat Lady, to guard the city where the MacGuffin cannot go, or else they'll lose or something.
Mm-hmm.
And because this is a movie made in 2008, the camera focuses on her cleavage as she walks into the scene.
Oh yeah, there's like tons of that in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Her name is Onyx, and she looks like Natara from Mortal Kombat for the, Mortal Kombat fans who care about the PS2 era games, which is like 10 of them, of which I count as 2. Her name is Onyx. Verminard's like, "You are my most trusted servant," and then she jumps off the tower, going like, "Ah!" and turns into a dragon.
Yeah, and once again, a terrible 3D animated dragon.
Right. The 2D animation is horrible here, too, because this whole scene is running at, like, 2 frames per second.
Oh, yeah.
And from that awkward scream to Animorph, we cut to Tanis, our main character, he's like a half-elf guy. He is walking through the forest as his hair bellows dramatically in the wind. He looks sad, but runs into an old dwarf who is sitting on a tree stump, whittling away for some reason. They're friends, but the dwarf is angry that Tanis called him old.
Yeah.
And that's literally the closest dwarf guy gets to a character arc.
Yeah.
That's it. He doesn't like being called old.
Dwarf guy just, he just gets angry about everything, Just stereotypical dwarf stuff. That's so funny. Right. It's just, wow.
Haha. Funny. So his name is Flint, because of course it fucking is. And after they hug, Flint breaks off the hug, and he goes, "I hope no one saw us hugging," because male bonding, so humorous.
No homo.
Yeah, literally, I wrote that in my notes.
Yeah.
So, Tanis, it's stated that he now has a beard, which he didn't have before, and this helps hide his elf heritage. And the beard is inherited from the human side of Tanis' family because he's a half-elf, which implies that in this setting, pure-blooded elves do not have facial hair.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hilarious when you think about it.
It's hilarious, but then again, have you seen an elf with facial hair? Are you okay?
Crap.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I actually don't think I have.
I didn't mean to break you there. That was like...
even in Dragon Age, I don't remember any elves having facial hair there besides player-created ones.
Yeah, which is, because, me and Riley have played D&D for, 5 years, and I'm sure we've come across a few elf characters who have had facial hair before.
Oh yeah, because I'm not lame.
Yeah, we don't care about that, but apparently in this universe that's a thing, and
it's very important.
Yeah, it's a very important elfin trait that they cannot have facial hair. I also love how just that's what hides his elf heritage, and not like
Yeah.
his long hair that hides his obviously elven ears.
Yeah, it's the beard.
Yeah, it's the beard that definitely, like, yeah, no, oh god, you couldn't be an elf. Yeah.
Well, you've got ears, but you also have a beard. So I guess you're just into some weird stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's weird. It's a weird scene. Also,
There's going to be a lot of those in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is why we're talking about it.
Right. And
so the name of the... Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So I guess as we continue in this sequence, they get attacked by... Are they goblins? Trolls? They
are goblins, but we aren't there yet.
We aren't? I'm pretty sure that happens, like, immediately after.
First we have Flint saying that we established that the name of the town they're going to is Solus, which is the town that Gandalf was in. And Flint is like, I'm not too old to make the walk! Flint and Tanis then proceed to have an extremely abrupt conversation about Tanis's love life. Tanis is in an Archie situation. He's torn between a woman named Kitiara and another woman named Loriana, which is very confusing. No, it's Lorana.
Lorana.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
They both suck. There's this thing called the Law of Conservation of Screen Time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Roger Ebert who did it, but don't quote me on that.
Right.
And it's like, when you put something on screen or you talk about something, it has to pay off or be important somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So, naturally you think, with them putting so much emphasis on Tanis's love life, it's going to be really important to the story. And it is. In the last 40 to 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And also, only one of the two love interests actually appears in this movie as a main character.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, I don't know anything about the novel. I just assumed that was from the novel, and they were just like, let's throw it in, because it's technically accurate to the source material that we're cramming into a 1.5-hour movie.
Yeah, so basically all of the problems about the movie as we discuss it further are the result of this movie trying to fit like a 400-page fantasy novel into about an hour and 45 minutes.
Which is a problem that many movies have.
Yes, but Dragonlance probably has it the worst I've seen.
Yes, definitely does. Definitely does.
Because instead of cutting out a bunch of stuff, they try to fit literally everything they can in.
Yeah, to the point where you have all these extra characters who are given no character development whatsoever and are just kind of thrown in at the end, but we'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Again. Restrain yourself, Sam.
I'm trying, but I'm just so hyped for this movie. Just so hyped.
So, as they're walking, they transition from that to talking about what Tanis has actually been doing in quote, lands that are unfriendly to elves. Tanis has been on a quest to find evidence that the good gods have returned, but he's come up empty. Wind dramatically covers Tanis's face with hair as he gets sad over the gods leaving 300 years ago, which means his faith in them was misplaced. Granted, the whole story with Gandalf thing implied that the gods leaving was common knowledge, so I guess Tanis was just really slow on the uptake there.
Yeah.
Flint is like, don't feel so bad about it. But then he sneezes, turns to the camera and yells, "Horse!" We then get an awkward zoom in on some trees as the two are approached by goblins, which are led by a very big-lipped goblin that is riding a pony that has anime eyes.
It's fantastic, and this encounter is just one of the
This is where the movie goes downhill.
Yeah, this is one of the first fight combat scenes in this movie, and it's very bad.
So the goblins are mad at them because no one is allowed to walk into Solus after dark. Unfortunately, the movie has set this scene during the day.
Yeah.
Which means this line does not make any sense.
Right. They already messed it up.
Yeah. The lead goblin's name is freaking Master Toad. He orders his men to search Tanis and Flint for the staff, which they don't have. Flint responds in a, reasonable and mature way by stating that if any goblins touch him, he'll kill them.
Yeah, very mature.
Mm-hmm. Tanis tries to defuse the situation, but even then he's like, this law is so stupid. Your authority's dumb. You suck. And then a extremely choppy fight ensues. Flint yells, "One only thing I hate more than a gully dwarf, and that's a goblin!" As Sam was alluding to, this fight is extremely choppy, very poorly shot. A lot of times characters just kind of look like they're sliding into each other rather than fighting. Like, the fight animation in Castlevania, how it's so smooth and crunchy and impactful.
Which, I'm not expecting that good animation from
not.
most projects, because Castlevania is just in a caliber of its own. But even then, I feel like they could have done a better job here.
The exact opposite. This is like if they took a fight scene and then poured molasses on it.
There's also the moment where was it troll goblin? They're goblins.
They're goblins.
Yeah, the goblin it's like has the main character guy pinned down.
Yeah, he goes, "At least I'm not a half-breed."
Yeah, and then he spits out this this white fluid, which very much looks like semen.
Yeah. For some reason, they drew the goblin spit as very viscous and very white. It does not look like spit.
Which, out of context, just that one frame of the main character's face covered in what appears to be cum all over his face.
This understandably, because no homo, this makes Tanis very mad.
Yeah.
So he gets up and kills the goblin, and he does this by bludgeoning the goblin to death with his sword.
Yeah. So remember how I said how, at points they're very okay with showing blood?
Right.
For some reason, they don't do it here.
No.
Even though he very clearly, stabbed
him. The first fight scene in this movie really tries to, cut around the violence of the scene, almost like a 4Kids production, to the point where Tanis is punching most of the goblins, despite the fact that he's holding a sword in his right hand.
Yeah, it runs into the whole, X-Men 90s cartoon problem with Wolverine, where he very clearly has claws, but decides to just punch and kick every good guy.
No, he does cut their guns.
Yeah, the guns, and if they're robots, he'll definitely tear those to shreds.
So, you got that. So, Tanis is, frozen because he's horrified by the fact that he bludgeoned this goblin to death with his sharp sword.
Yeah.
But luckily, he's saved by the worst character in the movie, Tasselhoff.
Tasselhoff. Oh,
who,
my God.
Fun fact, I found out, is named after David Hasselhoff.
Really? That is...
Yes.
Is that a true fact?
It is a true fact.
Because this character is nothing like David Hasselhoff.
No, he's not. Tasselhoff is a Kender, which is like this setting's version of halflings. But instead of, halfling stuff, they're just annoying.
They're
very
annoying.
They're just really energetic, really naive race of children people.
Yeah.
And Tasselhoff embodies not only every bad aspect about Kenders as a race, but also every bad aspect of rogues as a class.
Oh yeah,
because he is a rogue as well.
If you're an avid D&D player like me and Riley, and you hate rogues, you will probably hate this character because
he spends all of the movie stealing from his own party, constantly just running into problems, causing problems for everyone, never shutting up. He's just the worst.
Yeah, which we'll definitely have to get into that a bit more once we meet the rest of our ensemble here.
Right.
But yeah, just keep in mind, this is very much everyone's first time playing a rogue.
And every scene Tasselhoff is in, you're just waiting for him to die, and then he doesn't.
He does,
which automatically docks 2 points from this movie's score.
Yeah, he just does not die. And, like, I know, like, it's common for animated movies to have that annoying side character who's kind of goofy, kind of wacky. But this ain't it. This really ain't it.
Well, he's from the novels, too.
Well, you know how we said that, how sometimes you gotta omit some characters when you're adapting novels?
But think about it, Sam. If they had adapted the future Dragonlance story, then we could have seen Tasselhoff's overly convoluted time travel paradox story.
Exactly. Is that a real thing?
That's a real thing. Because guess what? He can't even die right. So they have to pull some X-Men garbage to, like, take him from the moment he was supposed to die into the future, and then he has to go back in time to actually die again.
Oh my god. Wow. That's stupid.
Luckily, though, he does get crushed under someone's foot, like a giant's foot, so at least he gets the death he deserves.
Oh, that's nice. I'm glad we're just casually spoiling this character's death.
It's fine. These novels are 30 years old.
Right.
So Master Toad, luckily, manages to escape this fight so that he can accomplish absolutely nothing later.
Yeah.
Tanis gets mopey again, and literally every time Tanis gets even slightly sad, dramatic wind will come and throw hair in his face.
Yeah.
And it looks really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So this time he's sad because he got mad and killed that goblin, and he says that's from his human side.
Yeah.
This is never brought up again.
Yeah. See, that would be an interesting thing to explore about, like, how, hey, maybe, you know, humans aren't so great in this world. But they only hint at that, because they don't have time to explore that much.
Right. So, to be fair, this speaks to the much bigger arc of Tanis' character, which is his divide between his human and elven halves. He's, like, torn between his two identities.
Yeah.
Which is a perfectly fine story, but, you know, the whole I have human rage thing is never brought up again, and the movie will proceed to just completely fumble this theme throughout its runtime.
Yeah.
To the point where you really, really have to look deep to even understand what they're going for.
Yep.
Anyway, Tanis and the crew are together now, and they just kind of move on from the goblin murder without any second thought or real regret.
Yeah.
We then, after a fade to black and then fade back in, we're at Solus now. Flint touches Tanis on the shoulder for some reason, and we enter the tavern. At the tavern, we're introduced to pretty much all of our main characters, who, in order of importance, are Rastalin, an arrogant mage who is the lawful evil member of the party.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is going to go on and on about how he's shady and super evil and no one trusts him. And, like, he's obviously evil.
Yes.
But he never does anything evil in the story.
Yeah, it's like... it's like people, and, like, just don't trust him for pretty much no reason, or at least no reason that's given.
Yeah, they're just like, how can we trust him? He could be trying to betray us. When, like, the whole movie, he just stays completely loyal to the party and, like, has their back through the whole thing. It's really weird.
They also make a point that, like, apparently he's selfish because he, like, made like a pact with some, what was it, another patron?
It's like
another
this,
demon?
He gets his super magic powers from, like, this tower of mages that's really important to the lore.
Yeah. And, like, I can't remember when, but they make a huge deal about, like, how he's so selfish for taking that deal or whatever, or making that pact, but the only person that's getting hurt from it is him.
Yeah, because basically the way the pact worked is that he gains power by sacrificing his health, so he's just, like, constantly sick all the time.
Yeah, which, you know, sure, I guess is selfish in a way, but I don't see.
It's really not.
It's not.
There are worse things you could do to get ultimate power.
Yeah, he's not hurting anyone else around him from what we know. So I don't understand the hate that he's given. I really don't.
Neither do I. Directly below him is Goldmoon, who is a barbarian princess who just so happens to be carrying the MacGuffin staff, and she is hanging out with Riverwind. Riverwind is Goldmoon's love interest, and his sole character trait, besides being Goldmoon's love interest, is that he's racist against non-humans, but is racist in, like, a really annoying way, where he's just like, I'm not going to listen to you, elf!
Yeah, it's really annoying fantasy racism.
Then we get Caramon, who is... I keep forgetting his name. Rastalon, because, yeah. He's Rastalon's brother, and besides being hungry all the time, that is his only character trait, and that's his only role in the movie, to be Rastalon's brother. And below him, we have Sturm. Yes, his name is Sturm. A paladin with a mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Who literally has no reason to be here.
Oh, yeah.
He contributes absolutely nothing to this movie.
He is very notable because he is in a full suit of armor that he never takes.
That looks awful.
Yep, and it looks awful. God, you could have had, like, a better armorer, like, design that. I don't know what they're called. But, yeah, his whole, like, the only contribution he makes is that he's a man in armor, and he gets beat up a lot. That's it.
Because, yeah.
That's all he does.
He doesn't have any arc. He doesn't have any, like, role, really, besides, like Sam said, getting beat up all the time.
Yeah.
He's a completely worthless character. Even compared to the people who are going to, like, show up in the last 40 minutes. He is less important than them.
Yeah.
And he's a main member of the party.
Yeah. It's just kind of funny how he's just kind of there. And he looks a lot like a different character. I can't remember which character. I think it's the... It's someone. He looks a lot like another character in the party, so I keep getting them confused. To the point...
He looks a lot like Caramon.
Caramon, yeah. He looks a lot like him.
Because Caramon is a fighter,
yeah,
whereas Sturm is a paladin, which are different D&D classes.
They are different D&D classes, but here it's like... They're not, like... Caramon is not even wearing a full thing of armor, but I still get them mixed up, because they're basically the same character.
They're basically the same character. They're just, like, generically good fighter hero guys, and like, Sturm doesn't bring anything to the party that Caramon doesn't already have.
Yeah, it's like what little that Caramon brings to the party, he already has covered, and Stern's just basically there to get beat up. The, like, 1 to 2 things Caramon brings just, like, makes Sturm completely obsolete. Yeah, and so you may be wondering, why didn't they cut this character out of this movie?
Because he's in the books.
He's in the books, so...
And he's an important character, so...
Yeah. You know, and because he's in the books, they have to throw him in. You know, every character that's in the book, they have to throw in the movie. It doesn't matter if they get enough time to be characters. They have to be there.
As we alluded to with the Tasselhoff thing, this is very much your first D&D party.
Yes.
You have generic half-elf, generic evil wizard, generic fighter, generic paladin, a generic cleric. Like, all of these guys are very stock archetypes.
Yeah.
And there's also way too many of them. And turns out, the reason for that is because the Dragonlance novel was based on an actual D&D group.
I know, right? Shocker. It's like you couldn't tell by watching the movie. Or, you know, knowing that these novels were part of D&D at one point. Were part of Wizards of the Coast at one point. But
they still are.
They still are, technically, just not in the movie division, apparently.
Right.
But, yeah, watching the movie, you start to realize that this is just everyone's first D&D campaign. And
now, that's not inherently a bad thing.
It's not.
There's plenty of D&D media that's based on the writers and developers
and
creators.
I know people who are who play 5e D&D now may think first D&D campaigns, those are fun. No, I'm talking about first D&D campaigns back in 3rd or even 1st edition almost. I know it just feels very old school in so many ways, and it is just militantly straight. That's what I'd say, which isn't a bad thing, but
no, it's not.
Here it gets a bit annoying.
And from what I've read about the books, the books do a way better job of fleshing out what were obviously first time D&D characters into being actual characters, but the movie does not do that. So the fact that they are very much stock archetypes is really, really blatant and really, really annoying.
Yeah, it's just everything you expect insert class character to make, they're going to make that choice. Everything you expect Tasselhoff to do is basically everything you'd expect your typical rogue to do. Everything you expect the dwarf character to do is basically what he does. It's just even down to the cleric player. She's the sole female in this party, the sole woman
for most of the movie.
And
they get 2 more by the end.
And of course, she's a healer, and it's just so stereotypical, and it's just really. This came out in 2008. Now,
the writing is really letting these characters down in this movie. But, maybe if they have good voice acting, the actors can breathe life into these characters.
Yeah. And there's an impressive cast list here.
For real, this movie has an incredible cast. They have Kiefer Sutherland as Rastalin. Tanis is played by Michael Rosenbaum, who was the voice of The Flash in the Justice League animated series. You have Phil LaMarr as Riverwind, Lucy Lawless as Goldmoon. You have Fred Tasticore as Flint. And Tasselhoff is voiced by Jason Marsden, who was really big in early 2000s voice acting. So, these are all very... And D. Bradley Baker shows up later. So, all of these, even at the time, were very experienced, very well-known in voice acting circles voice actors. These guys have a ton of talent.
Yeah.
And it is just not showing in this movie at all.
At all. It's it's... I mean, I can understand why they didn't want to promote this movie. It wasn't the greatest. It was not the greatest. I think
I put it down mostly to bad voice direction because everyone in this movie just sounds so flat.
Yeah.
Bored almost.
Usually when you get such a talented cast of voice actors and they all deliver just bland performances in a project, it's almost always bad voice direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't blame these voice actors at all.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
But it's just really astonishing because Michael Rosenbaum and Phil LaMarr are the worst of them, are the worst cases. Phil LaMarr especially. He just does not emote for most of the movie, and whenever Tanis is supposed to be yelling, it often comes off as mild annoyance more than him being actually angry or anything.
Right.
It's just, it's so dry. Yeah, like you said, it's just so dry. Like, they didn't care. And it does add to the hilarity of the movie. Because,
in all fairness, if I was casted in this movie, I probably wouldn't care either.
But, like, these actors did care. Because I know from my reading that Kiefer Sutherland actually went out of his way to, like, practice the names of all of his spells and get their, like, pronunciations exactly right. Like, he went the extra mile for this direct-to-DVD animated movie.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say Kiefer Sutherland does the best job here.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely one of the better actors in this movie.
Yeah. Then again, he's playing probably the most interesting character in this movie. So, that's not a shocker. Everyone else's character is just very one note.
There was one kind of mini review of this movie I watched while researching it for this podcast. Mm-hmm. And they said, like, the animation of this movie is awful, but it makes an incredible audio drama. And I'm just like...
What?
No?
Have you tried listening to it with just the audio? Like...
He showed it in his video. He, like, took away the picture and, it still sounded bad.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. The delivery here is just bland. It's bland all around.
It's bland, it's disinterested, it rarely ever matches the emotion of the scene.
Yeah, but I think we're getting too ahead of ourselves here, like...
Yes.
So after we meet everyone...
some kids run up to Tasselhoff, and they ask, "Why are you short?" And we just move on from that. The barmaid's name is Tika.
Mm-hmm.
She brings the party, like, things of ale.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is friends. They came to this tavern to meet each other, basically. And Flint says to this barmaid Tika, who he hasn't seen since he was a little girl, "You grew up fast." The camera and his eyeline are both focused on her large boobs.
Her large boobs that very much have their own physics, and...
Yes, as is demonstrated in a very awkward slow motion shot of those boobs jiggling as Caramon watches her.
It's just so, like, was this necessary? Was this necessary? Like...
She notices that her boobs are jiggling around, so she, like, pulls up her blush a little bit as Caramon literally just stares slack-jawed. And I wrote here on my notes, I hate this.
Yeah, I hated that entire sequence. It's just annoying.
There's this, like, really romantic, like, string song playing in the background, because you're basically supposed to be like, this is romantic. He's falling in love with her. And this is the closest the movie is gonna get to building their relationship.
Yeah.
A little girl asked Tasselhoff to, listen to a story with them,
mm-hmm.
and Tasselhoff's reply is, "How can I turn down an invitation from such a cute little girl?" Which is...
Okay, I don't think he meant it that way, but still phrasing.
And this is immediately followed by a butt shot of Tika.
Yeah, the butt shot.
Yeah, the butt shot.
Yeah, they definitely focused on that, like, way longer than they needed to.
Oh, yeah, check out this poorly animated TNA. You can find hentai that's better animated than this, and I'm not joking.
I just love how stiff most of this animation is. But for the boobs and butt shot, they definitely made sure to get that down.
Yeah, they really put all their budget into that. Alright, so we can either put all the budget into the final fight with Lord Verminard, or we can put the budget into the close-up of Tika's breasts. I mean, do you really need to ask that question? Yeah, I know, right? Tika's breasts.
Oh, 2000s.
Oh, 2008. or 1996.
Yeah, whatever year this was made.
Yeah.
I
don't remember the exact year, but it was the 90s.
We don't know. It just makes more sense to be the 90s.
So, we zoom out on the gang having their drink finally, but the background artist kind of screwed up because the background is covering, like, pretty much half the shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sturm raises up his sword and tells the party that he's looking for his father, and all he found was the sword and the armor he's currently using. This is the last time this is ever mentioned.
Yeah.
As they're talking, it becomes clear that everyone conveniently ran into goblins who were all looking for the staff. Oh, I should mention, the way I said it earlier makes it sound like all of the characters I mentioned are friends. Goldmoon and Riverwind are not their friends. They just happen to be in this tavern.
Yeah, they're like visitors. Yeah. They're like tourists, and, you know.
They're travelers.
Yeah. But of course they join the merry band of whatever this party is called. The party.
They are called the Heroes of the Lance in later books.
Oh, the Heroes of the Lance. That is a boring ass name. Wow.
It fits.
Yeah, I guess it's better than most. It's just
So as they talk about this, and Sturm talks about how there are rumors of war going around, which should probably have been established before the 16-minute mark, and this is a plot point that is not going to be picked up again for at least 30 minutes. We move over to Gandalf. Gandalf has basically a bunch of memory loss and has to be reminded of the story he's talking about. He tells a story about a man named Dragonbane and how he used the Dragonlances to save the world. Apparently Dragonbane was the main character in one of those one-off books that came out before Dragonlance.
Yeah.
So that's some lore right there.
Oh.
Not that it matters, but it's there.
I'm glad that the 20 Dragonlance fanatics watching this could get that reference, you know?
There's more than 20, actually. It does have a sizable fandom even today. This was a big thing back in the day.
All right, I'm sorry. To the 2000 Dragonlance fans.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, you're still going to be canceled, but
by
at least
Dragonlance
you won't be canceled
fans.
Yeah, you probably only need to make one apology video now instead of two.
Okay, I guess I could do that.
This time the women get some eye candy as Tika sexily watches Caramon eating potatoes.
Oh god, that's totally the same thing.
And I'm not joking. She literally is just like really hot, she has the bedroom eyes for him as he just stuffs potatoes into his mouth.
Wow.
And this is treated as a romantic scene. So Tanis gets a letter from Kitiara, and the letter basically says that she can't make it to the meeting because she has work. So R.I.P. Tanis, because Tanis established that of the two girls he is with, he had chose Kitiara. Flint then gets mad because everyone promised they would be here, and the never-before-mentioned oath has been denied, which means that bad luck will soon come.
Ooh, bad luck.
It's a very random aside, but I like to think that it's a joke about players canceling on D&D sessions at the last second.
Yeah.
Which, point one to the movie for that. That's a clever joke.
Yeah, there are some...
But I'm probably giving it too much credit.
Yeah, there are some subtle nods to D&D campaigns and everything. But,
So, yeah. Gandalf starts talking about the old gods again, and then this guy, whose name I don't think they said, so I just wrote him down as Karen. Mm-hmm. This Karen gets really mad, and he's like, "Blasphemer! Bad person!"
Yeah, as Karens usually do. They just get
mad. The way he goes on about it, it sounds like talking about the gods of light is against the law? Question mark? It's never really made clear. Goldmoon stands up to defend Gandalf, and she's like, the gods of light are real, and they have returned, and blah de blah. And Tanis is like, such a fool, having been tricked by charlatans or something. And it's extremely obvious that the staff she's holding is the staff the goblins were looking for. In response to what Goldmoon says, the Karen shouts at her, "Witch!" Which is apparently a huge accusation, despite this setting having for real magic in it.
Yeah, but still, that's a huge accusation,
Yeah, despite the fact that there is literally a wizard just standing 2 feet away from her.
Yeah, wizards are okay, but witches? Oh no, not in this fantasy world.
The Karen yells, "I take what I want!" and tries to take the staff from her.
As Karens do.
Right, because, Goldmoon says that the staff is proof that the gods have come back or whatever.
Yeah.
So, in response to this, Riverwind, who's kind of her bodyguard, takes the guy and then just chucks him into the fireplace causing him to burn alive.
A very normal thing to do.
Right, and, the fireplace was to his left. Riverwind could have... This fireplace is small enough that it is not an easy thing to do to accidentally throw someone in it. You would have to be deliberately going for that. But the way Riverwind reacts, he's like, "Oh no!
Oh no! I accidentally pushed you in the fireplace."
And the way the shot is composed, it looks like the fire has completely consumed you. That's
got to give you 48 fire damage right there, because we're so clever with those D&D nods.
We pan over the entire crowd of the tavern, frozen in stiff, unanimated terror. And then we cut back to the Karen, and it turns out, rather than his whole body being on fire, it's just this tiny bit of fire on the back of his cape.
Oh,
Gandalf shouts, "Knock him down so we can put out the flames!" Tasselhoff interprets this as, take Goldmoon's staff and whack the Karen over the head with it, which knocks him out. Luckily for little psychopath Tasselhoff, the whack over the head actually healed him, because it turns out the staff is a healing staff, which means you can't hit anyone with it, because then it would just heal them. But I don't think the writers thought about that.
Yeah.
So it turns out it's the real healing staff, and Tanis is immediately like, "Okay, we have to get out of here. Because this is because the goblins are going to be after you and stuff." Tika tells them the goblins are after them, and then Tanis is like, "We have to protect." Sorry, I'm misremembering it.
Yeah,
it's just, there's so much good in this movie that it's hard to pick out
It's so much
things.
Content, It just happens.
It really is. So, Tika's like, "The goblins are going to come after you." And Tanis is like, "We have to protect her. We need to run away."
Right.
Sturm goes, "Run from this rabble?" As he's approached by just, ordinary townspeople who are probably scared that the goblins who are, occupying their town are going to, kill everyone or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sturm's a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
The way Tanis convinces Sturm to leave is he says, "Sturm, there's a lady to protect." And Sturm goes, "M'lady."
Yeah.
He's the worst. I'm really glad he dies in book 2
of
this trilogy.
That's good to hear. I'm so glad. That's the best news I've heard all day.
So instead of running from the approaching goblin horde like they say they're going to do, everyone just kind of stands in the middle of the tavern so they can have a discussion about how they're going to run from the goblin horde.
Yeah.
Shockingly, because they waste so much time talking about how they're going to run from the goblin horde, by the time they decide to just leave through the front door, the goblin horde arrives and attacks them in the tavern.
Yeah, if only they didn't stand there discussing how to run away from the goblin horde.
This whole bizarre sequence is interspersed with close-ups of Sturm's face as he makes several different expressions, none of which actually match what is going on in the scene. Flint throws a chair at the goblins in an epic action sequence, and then the party runs into the kitchen and flees through the hole in the kitchen that has a rope in it, which bar kitchens are known to have. I mean, pretty much everyone just goes down the rope, but Rastalin decides to be a cool dude and uses the Featherfall spell to, like, float down.
Yeah, because...
in the process, wasting a spell slot and looking stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's probably a warlock. I don't think warlocks get that many spell slots.
He is a wizard, I think.
Is he?
From my research, yeah.
Okay, so if he's a wizard, still, that is wasting a spell slot. Unnecessarily.
Yeah, he's a wizard.
Okay. This whole time I thought he was a warlock, because he just gave off more warlock vibes. But
yeah, you would think, but nope, he's a wizard.
Then again, this is like D&D 3rd edition 3.5.
Yeah.
So
rules change.
You know. Anyways, the goblins attack them once they reach
they attack
the ground.
them when they hit the ground. This leads to a much more brutal, blood-filled battle scene, but it's still just as stiff and choppy as it was the first time.
Yeah.
And Tanis is still punching people, despite having a sword that can now draw blood.
Mm-hmm. It's so jarring, because literally they have no problem showing just dead goblin corpses in just pools of blood, but no, we still gotta make sure we hit people with our swords instead of...
Yeah, they punch people with their sword-holding hand.
It's so weird. Again, who is this movie for? We don't know. It's for us, obviously, but who?
Tanis, let's get out of here before more of them show up, Tanis says, as an army of goblins shows up literally the second they leave the scene. And man, I'm saying literally a lot.
Yeah, that's okay.
I should stop.
Yeah, also during the goblin encounter, the one dude who's not in the suit of armor gets stabbed in the legs a bunch.
Yeah, he does.
And just walks it off like a champ.
Yeah. Yeah, despite the fact that we have the first cleric in centuries here, like, Caramon they never follow up on the whole leg stab heal thing.
They show him get stabbed in at least 3 different places in his leg, I believe it's 3. But after they deal with the goblins, he's just like, alright, I'm good. Let's
yeah, he
go.
literally just runs off with darn it, literally again. He runs off with the rest of them and has no problems whatsoever.
It's just so jarring, because that would not be the case. Even in regular D&D, if you get stabbed in the leg 3 different times, you're gonna...
Yeah, you're gonna feel it.
You're gonna feel it. This is why this
you won't
is
just
a
be able
terrible...
to run away from a goblin horde.
This is why this is a terrible D&D game adaptation. Even though it's a novel, but it's a novel based off of a D&D campaign, so...
Well, it's not even a novel. It's a movie of a novel. So it's possible that they had a scene where they actually covered that in the novel, but then cut it out from the movie, and then left in the thing that leads into that scene because
I'm still
this
blaming
movie
the
is
movie.
really... Yeah, I'm blaming the movie too.
Yeah.
Fade out. Fade in. The party now finds themselves by a lake. Flint isn't happy because he hates boats, and besides being old, this is his only other character trait, and it only comes up this one time.
Yeah, he's just
also
deathly afraid of boats, apparently.
Also, there is just, like, a boat hanging out on the very unsettled coast of this lake.
Which you may be asking, why is there a boat here? Did someone take this boat here? It doesn't matter. It's a way for the party to escape.
Yeah, that's what matters.
How many of them are in this party? Like 8 people?
Yeah, let's see. We have
main characters.
2 brothers.
Yeah, 2.
We have Strum.
Mm-hmm.
We have the 3 main characters. So that's 6. Yeah, we have 8 characters in this party so far.
Yeah, so 8 characters are gonna all fit on this dinky little boat here.
It's a metaphor for how they have to fit 8 main characters in an hour and 45-minute movie.
Which I think this also is a bit of an issue with this movie as well, is that there's too many characters in this party. Like, kill
and they
some
only
off.
add more.
Yeah.
They add more as the movie goes on. Just more characters.
And you'd think they'd kill off a few characters here and there, but no, they don't. Spoilers, but no character dies in this movie. Well, a few of them do, but no one in this party does.
Yeah, no one in this party dies. It's pretty much they just get it just gets bigger.
Yeah, it's just like 8 already is a giant party. Like so huge. And the fact that like 4 of these characters are basically the same character makes it worse.
So everyone's getting on the boat, but Flint refuses because he really needs to milk this character trait for what it's worth. Heroic music plays as he boldly faces the approaching goblin horde while his friends go out onto the sea. And then he chickens out and swims into the boat.
Yeah, this dude...
Master Toad is back.
This dude was literally about to die instead of just getting on the boat. Which is very stupid.
Master Toad is here. Good for him. Tanis... So they're shooting arrows at them. The goblins are shooting arrows at the party, and they're shooting flaming arrows at the party. So Tanis is like, Rastalin, do you have anything up your sleeve? And Rastalin's response is, more than you'll ever know.
It's very ominous for no reason.
A lot of Rastalin's dialogue is that, just saying something unnecessarily snarky or pointlessly ominous that never pays off.
Yeah. Maybe it would have paid off in the sequels, but no, not here. Not here.
So, Rastalin casts a sleeping spell that basically just immediately defeats all the goblins. Like, they just all instantly fall down asleep.
Yeah.
So, it was that easy.
It was just that easy.
And this leads into some very awkward exposition for Rastalin to deliver. So Tasselhoff is annoyed Rastalin can't cast more spells, despite the fact that he basically just like ended the fight right there with a single spell. And so Rastalin has to tell Tasselhoff how wizards work. Like, they only have a certain amount of spell slots per day. They have to rest in order to get their spell slots back. And Tasselhoff responds to this, well, yeah, I knew that, but I asked the question anyway, because I'm the worst character in this franchise.
Yeah, Tasselhoff is just, very annoying. And this is why I thought, he was a warlock, not Tasselhoff. That magic guy.
Rastalin, yeah.
Rastalin. You could tell I didn't care to remember any of these characters' names.
Nor did I, initially. I only know them because I had to write them down in my notes. Initially, during the actual watchings, I tend to just refer to them by their actors' names.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the tried and true Fast and Furious method.
Right, Kiefer Sutherland's character.
Right, you have Kiefer Sutherland, Michael Rosenbaum, all the gang is here. So, because he cast these spells, and because of the previously mentioned I have to sacrifice my health for power thing, Rastalin is like, he is really bad. Like, he's holding onto the side of the boat, he's in real bad shape. And then 5 seconds later, he's fine, so that he can point out that the constellations that maybe represent the different gods are gone. As in, the stars that made up these constellations are just not there anymore. There are huge holes in the night sky where these constellations were. And Caramon's response to this is, come on, Rastalin, they're just stars, and that's just a legend. Again, there are holes in the night sky. The stars are missing, and Rastalin's stupid brother is just like, it's just a myth.
It's just a myth. Those stars in the sky, what did they even do anyways?
They don't really explain, actually, but I guess the constellations being missing is important. I think, like, Takesis' constellation is missing, which is to give the idea that Takesis is back, but this implies that Takesis only just got out, even though, based on everything else in the movie, she's been out for a while.
Right.
And good for her, you know?
Yeah.
Fade out. Fade in. The party has now made camp in a cave, and we get to know Gold Moon and Riverwind's backstory. It's here that we have the first of about 5 or 6 style changes.
Yep.
Because in addition to the consistent animation errors of Tannis's hair clipping through his face and Tannis's cape clipping through his body, which happens all the time, we have the character models visibly changing from shot to shot. Faces will be rearranged. Characters will look like they're melting in certain scenes. It gets really bad. It gets really bad towards the end of the movie where the style's literally changing on a shot-by-shot basis.
Not to mention that they have, once again, the dramatic wind come in.
Yeah.
Except
in a cave.
In the cave. And wouldn't you know it, the wind is coming from inside the cave.
Yeah, it's not blowing from the cave mouth. It's blowing towards the cave mouth.
And this happens in literally all the wind dramatic scenes in this cave, which is just very hilarious.
Yes, and when I said the cursed word, literally every time Tannis is sad, there's dramatic wind, I do mean the cursed word literally, because it happens indoors, even underground. It's just whenever he needs to give a speech, the wind will be there to punctuate it.
It's just fantastic, you know?
So Riverwound and Goldmoon regurgitate their backstory to the party. Mm-hmm. Basically, they're barbarians. Riverwound and Goldmoon discovered the staff, but their village were jerks who didn't believe in the good gods because it is very poorly defined how worship of the good gods is handled or looked upon in this universe. Because it's like, people talk about them like they're a well-known thing, but people will also hate you for talking about them. And it's just very weird and poorly explained, at least in the movie.
Yeah.
So the village was going to stone them, but the staff magically transported them away to save them. Tannis is convinced by this that this means the gods are real. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Riverwind continues to be annoying by being like, listen with those big pointy ears. And Tasselhoff continues to be annoying in his own way by stealing a ring from Tannis that he got from one of his girlfriends, the elf one, Lorana. So basically he stole the dude's engagement ring because Tasselhoff's an asshole.
Literally. Once again, he's the rogue that steals from even their own members of their own party. It's just very funny.
Fade out. Fade in. We return to the evil castle. Verminard is playing, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monsters or something on, like, his war map. And he's given a recap of the plot so far by a goblin. It's here that we're introduced to a new set of MacGuffins. The Discs of Mashakal.
Yep, as if
and then the scene ends.
Staff wasn't enough of a MacGuffin. We have...
Yes, we now have two MacGuffins.
The Discs of Mashakal. That's what they're called, right?
Yes.
Wow.
And that brings our MacGuffin counter up to 2, because this movie isn't just filled with too many characters, it also has way too many plot device artifacts.
Yeah, which is probably something from the novel, but, you know, once again, you could have left that out for the movie.
We don't need more than one MacGuffin.
We really don't. So, we fade in.
Hey, remember that one book, Harry Potter and the 12 Philosopher's Stones?
Yeah, that book. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we fade out, fade in. The party is now walking through a haunted forest. They tell Tasselhoff, like, yeah, this forest is haunted, and Tasselfoot's response is, this forest is haunted by the dead! Yay! Cool Cat is here to ruin the party.
What if they don't know about Cool Cat?
Who doesn't know about Cool Cat?
They'll eventually know when we cover it. Maybe.
They'll eventually know. We won't cover the original movie, but if and when Cool Cat Stops a School Shooting ever comes out, we'll cover that.
Yeah, apparently that's a thing.
Yeah, that is a real movie that the maker of Cool Cat is trying to make.
Very fun.
I'm not exaggerating.
Very fun, very cool.
It is very much the second coming of 9/11/2, the Indiegogo campaign.
Oh, God.
But anyway,
Yeah.
Caramon mentions he's hungry. Yeah. Riverwind tries to plant a kiss on Goldmoon's cheek, but she stops him. Like, okay, so they're in this thing, and Riverwind just, like, walks up from behind her and tries to, like, give us a little smooch on the cheek just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so Goldmoon is like, we can't. And this makes Riverwind sad. So he walks 5 feet away, and dramatic wind bellows. And as Riverwind stands in full hearing distance of Tanis and Goldmoon, Goldmoon explains to Tanis that because she's a noble and Riverwind's not, they can't be together. Which makes Riverwind so sad.
It's just so sad.
Granted, they're exiles now, so the rules of the tribe they were a part of seem like a moot point.
Yeah.
But no one ever brings that up, so whatever, I guess. Tasselhoff, who they sent ahead to scout, returns shouting, "Monks!" And everyone reacts as if these monks are, like, gonna be bandits, so that they're gonna attack them, even though they're just, like, monks.
Yeah.
And they're like, Sturm, you should do the talking. The monks will respect a paladin. Like, bruh, it's just monks. Calm down.
Yeah. And, the first thing you notice about these monks is that they are also 3D animated.
Yeah, they are just big lumps of brown CGI.
Which at first you're like, wait, why is this necessary? Until it's revealed.
Surprise! The monks are actually terrible-looking CG dragon people!
Yeah, it's almost like you could tell what character is good and what character is bad by whether or not they're animated in CG or not.
So Verminard's a hero, then?
I guess so.
So I think they're called Draconics. I didn't write down their name because I don't care. They attack the party, and you know how the fight scenes have looked stiff and awkward up to now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's worse now, because now the 2D characters have to interact with 3D characters, and the compositing is really, really bad.
Yeah.
All of these characters... like, this movie always has a problem of characters looking more like they're sliding into each other than actually fighting.
Yeah.
But it's especially bad with the 3D models because they're not, like, being drawn on the same plane or anything, so they literally are just sliding into each other.
Right, yeah. It's very janky. Very janky.
Yeah, it's extremely janky. There's no attempt whatsoever to make these elements mesh at all. There's no cell shading. There's no shading considerations put into it. It's a mess. It looks ugly and slow, and this is going to be pretty much every fight in the movie from now on.
Yeah. This is basically setting up the stage of what to expect for the rest of the movie. By the way, we're only 30 minutes into this movie,
right?
Which is very, very disappointing.
So when the dragon guys die, they turn into stone. So that's neat. And I only bring that up because it's going to be a thing in the next 5 seconds.
Yes.
Tanis gets punched repeatedly on the ground, and we see his very awkward bizarre facial expressions that almost make it look like he's enjoying getting pummeled.
Yeah.
Sturm, being an absolute freaking moron, has gotten his dad's sword trapped in the stoned-up dragon guy, and because he's a freaking moron, he's like, I can't leave without my dad's sword! So he's just, like, constantly trying to pull it out.
Yeah.
This allows the dragon guys to get up, to run up behind him and cut him in, like, the top of his head. And in the next scene, he falls, but because the perspective of the scene is really wonky, it looks like he shrank by 5 feet.
Yeah.
And as soon as he falls, the dragon guys run up to him and start kicking him at 1 frame per second.
And of course, the man in full suit of armor dies.
Well, we're not there yet.
Basically, we're there.
We're not in book 2 yet. This is all just book 1.
No, 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 no. Like, he actually dies here. Like,
Yes. Kind of.
yeah, he's basically on the ground bleeding out. He's basically dead.
And it's treating it, and the movie's treating it like this super huge dramatic death scene. Like, the sad music is playing. Tannis is going like, Sturm, no. Sturm is like, it was an honor to fight by your side. We get the same shot of blood coming down his nose and mouth repeated twice in a row.
Yeah.
Flint is so saddened by this that he turns away, tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
And then Goldmoon just pokes Sturm in the face with the healing staff, and he's fine, immediately gets up and says, I'm in your debt, my lady. And that's it. That's Sturm's whole, like, kind of not really death scene.
That's it. That's basically the only thing he's relevant for in this movie.
Uh-huh.
After that,
like,
he's
they just touch him, and he's immediately fine, and no one ever brings up this super dramatic scene ever again.
After that, he literally does nothing, which makes you wonder, why didn't they just kill him off?
And fun fact, the healing staff actually heals him so well that it like causes the blood that was underneath him to disappear.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. That's just a really tidy staff.
Yeah. It cleans up after itself. So, yeah.
More dragon guys attack, and the party realizes that in order to escape, they'll have to enter the Black Forest, or whatever it was called. It's the Haunted Forest.
Yeah.
Rassilin detects magic in this forest that attacks evil people, so Sturm responds with, then you're the only one who should fear it. Because again, everyone is like, we can't trust Rassilin, even though he never does anything untrustworthy in the entire movie. And Rassilin responds to this by smirking. And then Sturm's response to that is that he just gets kind of sad.
Right.
And the scene is over.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's the scene.
That's the scene.
but yeah, so they're in the forest.
They're in the forest,
mm-hmm.
And when you know it, they run into the, legally distinct from Lord of the Rings, ghost people.
The ghost people. And they're like, can they hear us? Can we attack them? But they're like, no, your regular weapons aren't going to work here. So
Rassilin has to cast like a spell so that he can like speak for the ghosts.
Yeah. And so he does that. And of course, who gets to speak for the party?
Fucking Tasselhoff.
Fucking Tasselhoff.
Because he's the rogue, so he has to do the persuasion. But when you know it, he sucks at it. And the ghosts immediately freak out because Tasselhoff mentions Goldmoon having the blue crystal staff. That's the name of the staff, by the way. The blue crystal staff. We established that earlier, right?
We did.
No?
No, we didn't.
Well, now, it's that name now. We're just going to call it that from now on.
That's the name, okay?
That's the name. So the ghosts freak out when they approach Goldmoon. Riverwind tries to defend her, but the ghost touches his blade, freezing the tip. Everyone then just awkwardly stands around for a few seconds so that the ice can reach Riverwind's hand and he can drop the sword.
Mm-hmm.
And then that scene just ends. That scene goes absolutely nowhere. It doesn't set up anything else further. Like, that's it. But we haven't even gotten to the most pointless scene in the movie yet, because the ghosts are actually good guys, and they open, like, a portal
mm-hmm.
that the party goes through, which leads them to...
This, like, it leads them to this, like, heavenly plane, almost.
Yeah, it leads them to some magical grotto with rainbows that's being run by a telepathic unicorn and her hot centaur servants who bring them food.
Which, honestly, it's pretty dope. But still, this scene's pointless.
And this is going to take up a big chunk of the movie. This is like basically the second half of Act 1 right here in this unicorn grotto.
Oh, yeah.
And it is just so completely pointless. It is literally the...
It's
literally.
Like, it gives them some exposition, and that's it.
Yeah, they don't get any exposition here that they couldn't have gotten pretty much anywhere else. And, like, I'm sorry, but this whole unicorn grotto thing should have been the very first thing they cut in this movie.
Yeah.
It does not need to be here.
Yeah, it could have really shaved off a good 8 minutes here. But
it does not establish anything in the movie outside of exposition that the viewer basically already knows. And as near as I can tell, it doesn't set up anything from future books, so...
Yeah, it just kind of seems like they're like, hey, we should visit this plane for reasons. Okay, thanks.
Bye.
So...
As to what happens in the Unicorn Grotto, fade out. Fade in. Are you getting tired of these yet? Because the movie's not going to stop using them.
Yeah, they do that.
The unicorn exposits to Goldmoon the nature of the staff, which makes Riverwind mad because this movie needs another weird close-up. Because just like the really bad fade-ins and fade-outs, this movie really likes to do really weird, awkward close-ups of characters making these bizarre, unintentionally comedic facial expressions.
Yeah.
Like poorly drawn sneers and such. Which I assume is like a cost or time saving measure.
Right.
But which is fine sometimes, but they use it so much that it makes the movie really choppy and hard to follow at times. Because it's like breaking the rules of cinema, because the camera's often not focusing on what the subject of the scene is.
Yeah. It's bad execution all around.
And you can bet that everyone is drawn differently again.
So I think we could skip the whole Pegasus flying scene, honestly.
Yeah, we can skip pretty much all this. Basically, they just learn about the discs of Mashakal. They have to go to MacGuffin City to find the discs, which I did not spell right. And Rassilon explains in his own exposition that they're texts that contain the truth of the gods and where they are hidden. And no one questions how Rassilon knows about the discs despite them being hidden artifacts that no one has talked about for years.
Maybe he just knew it and it would have been explained in later novels, but here? No.
The unicorn is also very insistent that Goldmoon must present the staff. Keep that in mind. Present the staff.
Present it. Yes.
So Tanis decides to have a chat with Rassilon, which is conveyed via fade out and fade in. So for some reason, this literally comes out of nowhere. Tanis thinks Rassilon might know something about what's going on with, like, the war and Bakuda or something, and apparently Rassilon does. He says he saw an army in a vision that will destroy the world, and then dramatic wind comes up, and then Tanis is like, I don't know if I can be the leader who can save the world. And Rassilon's just like, get good, noob, and walks away, and we fade out, and that's the scene.
That's the scene.
That's the fucking scene.
Yeah. So,
God.
I don't think anything else important really happens there.
No.
So,
No.
we skip to the village.
Yeah, so they fly away on Pegasus to MacGuffin City, and by the way, that ghost army, never mentioned again.
Yeah, it just, they don't really show up. They don't really do anything.
You think that the ghost army of all things would be important, but nope.
They just,
Nope.
they just still...
There's just a thing that is there,
They showed up in their ghost forest, and they're just stuck there.
Their ghost forest that is either an illusional cover for and or a gateway to the Unicorn Grotto.
Yeah.
So they find Goldmoon and Riverwind's village, and oh no, the fantasy cliche of the hero's hometown being destroyed happened.
It happened. It's very sad and overly gruesome, honestly.
Yeah, it's so gruesome that there's a guy going into acid, and there's another guy with poorly composited fake CGI fire on him.
Yeah, it's very jarring. But then,
and I will say, it's actually a fairly effective scene.
Yeah.
Because, it's jarring, but you really get a sense of the destruction and the terror that's been inflicted on this village until they find a shield with the words, Verminard will have the staff, painted on it with blood.
Yeah.
Which might as well just be, like, written where they might have well just written "bad guy was here."
Literally.
Sturm is so angered by this act of genocide that he goes, "On my honor, I will make him pay for this."
You know.
Sturm does not make Verminard pay for this.
Yeah, Stern is just, again, his purpose here, there is none.
We move on from the village. All that trauma that Goldmoon and Riverwind should have from seeing their home of at least 20 years destroyed and massacred.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about it. We have to go to the MacGuffin City. It's time for plot.
What?
Because we don't have time for character development or world building or even proper direction and camera movements.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So they just move on to this nearby...
Yeah, to the MacGuffin City,
the MacGuffin
which is a temple
City.
to the MacGuffin City, which is said to be a temple to the good gods. The characters admire the city. They say it's beautiful, despite the fact that it's a ruin in disrepair.
Yeah.
It's also revealed that gully dwarves are an actual thing. They are dwarves, but stupid.
Yep.
And that is their sole character trait as a race.
Yeah, and our dwarf character of the party hates them. Just absolutely hates them.
Because if you can't get a good character trait out of being old, and you can't get a good character trait out of boats, you might as well get a good character trait out of fantasy racism.
Yeah, which
but
I feel is
racism.
Very hypocritical because, you know, he's literally a dwarf himself. Like, it's just...
But he's the good kind of dwarf.
Right, the acceptable kind of dwarf. Yeah.
You know, he's not putting his dwarfiness in everyone's face.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a dwarf, but he only dwarfs in the privacy of his own home.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyways, they like, Kiefer Sutherland's character decides, oh yeah, we could use one of the gully dwarves to our advantage.
As like a guide.
Yeah, as like a guide. So he casts Friend's spell on her, and her name is Babu. Yeah.
And that's right. We have another character. Who is named and is important.
Yeah.
Though this doesn't stop the animators from forgetting to draw her into, like, at least a dozen scenes.
Yeah. And, but yeah, she leads them to where they need to go. And
yes, luckily, this random gully dwarf knows exactly where they need to go to find the treasure hoard that has the discs of Mashakal.
Yeah.
So the treasure hoard is being guarded by Onyx, who, if you somehow still have your faculties after all this time, was the dragon lady who screamed as she jumped off Verminard's tower.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Sam didn't realize this when we first watched the movie, and I can't really blame us, because Onyx's introduction was 40 minutes ago, and this is her first scene since the intro of the movie.
Right, yeah. Yeah, because I'm having the movie play back as we're talking about it right now.
How dare you?
No, because it's helping. It's helping.
You're cheating on me with the YouTube rips of this movie, and yes, this movie is just on YouTube, which is always the sign of a good movie.
Yeah, we found out on YouTube, but I've been watching this along as we've been talking about it.
I can't even right now. Well, like, this is such a betrayal of trust.
Well, it's because that way, in case you miss something, I'm watching along with you to remember.
I did not spend 8 hours of my day writing down notes on this Google Doc so that you could just watch the movie in the background as I recalled the plot points that we experienced twice, or in my case, 3 times.
Well, hey, it's not like I'm exactly enjoying revisiting this, so if anything, I'm kind of taking one for the team right now. But yes, that character was in the beginning of the movie. And I just realized that too as I was going through and watching it. Because we saw her in her human form at the very
and then
beginning.
she turned into a dragon.
She turned into a dragon very quickly. So it was hard to really pick that up.
Yeah, and it is, I hate to say this word, but literally 40 minutes ago.
Literally. That's the word of the day.
I hate it.
Yeah.
So, Boo Boo leads them to the treasure hoard. Rastlin smirks again, and he tells Boo Boo to find a spell book in the hoard. And this makes Tanis mad. Like, really mad. He accuses Rastlin of doing this just for power and blah, blah, blah. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they had to come here anyway.
Yeah.
There's no harm in Rastlin, like, getting an upgrade while they're here.
Yeah, as long as you don't awake the sleeping dragon, which they're arguing definitely did.
Yeah, because they're arguing right in front of her.
Yeah, because, you know, these characters are just that stupid.
So instead of Rastlin pointing out that they had to come here anyway, and it doesn't hurt anything if he just gets an upgrade here, he instead claims that Tanis is only seeking the good gods so that they can resolve the conflict Tanis has over his human and elvish sides, which was also not mentioned since 40 minutes ago.
Yeah, a lot of things not being mentioned since 40 minutes ago.
How Rastlin got, like, this from everything that's happened so far is beyond me.
Yeah.
Because that has not been a thing at all.
Right.
But Tanis shoots back that he doesn't want a lecture from someone who risks the lives of his friends and brother for personal gain, which is not something that happens in this movie.
Right.
I feel like in the original book, this conversation happened when Rastlin took them on a pointless side quest for the spell book, and then the writer of the movies just decided to, like, smush those two events together to, like, streamline it.
Yeah.
But he streamlined it in a way that just makes the whole thing confusing. Sturm manages to actually have another role in the plot because he finds the discs. The discs of Mashakal that look like those, like, circular baby toys that have, like, the big colorful balloon almost thingies, and you just put them over the little tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second MacGuffin is that, but also the Bible.
It's just like, yeah, it looks like an Indiana Jones lost artifact, basically, but
a bad
one.
It's an artifact from the Young Adventures of Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Looks like it costs maybe $10 to make. Like, if it was made in real life, it would just kind of be like, yeah. But
okay.
Yeah, they're arguing. They're arguing. It awakes the dragon character.
It awaits the dragon, and she knocks Rastlin to the ground. Onyx shoots acid at them, but it doesn't hit anyone.
Yeah.
And thus, Riverwind figures out that she must have destroyed the village because there are no other fantasy creatures and or spells capable of creating and or using acid.
Yeah.
And yes, they are immediately avenging their village, like, basically a few hours after promising to avenge their village. This is basically the point of the movie where where any sense of pacing just dies and the plot starts moving at light speed.
Yeah.
Onyx offers the lives of Goldmoon's friends for the staff. Goldmoon, because she's boring, accepts the trade, despite the fact that the staff has been mentioned numerous times to be key to restoring the gods of light. They can literally not restore the gods without this staff. Gosh dang it, literally. So anyway, she remembers what the unicorn said, to present the staff.
Yeah.
And somehow Goldmoon interprets this as take the staff and break it over the dragon's arm, which somehow kills both her and the dragon.
Yep.
So
that just works.
Yeah, the staff that was critical to bring the gods back is now broken. It's gone. Which, okay. The building, the temple they're in starts collapsing, and Riverwind is mad at Tanis because Tanis held him back when Goldmoon did her dumb sacrifice. But Tanis saves Riverwind's life by getting hit by a rock, which causes him to, he pushes Riverwind out of the way and gets hit by a rock in the head, which causes him to have a nosebleed.
Yeah. But
this act of brave heroism results in Riverwind ending his racism ? Like, they just never bring it up again, but that's clearly what they were going for. So, yeah.
Wow. And
everyone else,
no, go ahead.
Everyone else makes it out, and Flint shouts, "By the gods, they're dead!" Dramatic zoom out. And then 5 seconds later, Riverwind walks out with Tanis. And whoopsie daisy, it turns out the discs of Mashakal that Rasslin somehow knew about, he can't read them, because they're in a language he's never seen. They're in a language I've never seen before. Whoops.
Whoops.
Whoopsie daisy.
It just happened.
My bad. Riverwind is mad, so he kills a dragon guy who just kind of happens to be walking there. And as the party leaves, sadly, Boo Boo must leave the party, because Rasslin does not want her to leave her family.
Yep.
She gives Rasslin the spellbook, and they share a moment. And so, the most useless character besides Sturm leaves the plot.
Honestly.
No, really.
I think she was more useful than Stern.
Yeah, she was more useful than Sturm, but once again, she never comes up or is mentioned again.
Yeah.
Granted, she does show up in later books, but come on, still.
Yeah, at least, like, she doesn't tag along with them for the rest of the movie.
Also, the spell book that Tanis and Rasslin had a huge argument over is also never mentioned again.
Yeah, you know, that whole spell book that, like, was very important, and just, he got it anyways, and no one really cares.
It doesn't matter. Nothing in this movie matters.
Yeah, no one really cares. It's like, alright, well.
Fade out. Fade in. Tanis is... The party's walking out of the city, and Tanis is very sad that Goldmoon is dead. Mm-hmm. Flint tries to cheer him up and is like, "Oh, come on. You can't blame yourself, Tanis." And Tanis shouts, "Yeah, I know who to blame." So he runs off to the right of the screen and then immediately finds himself in a temple that contains a statue of the good gods. How he knew this temple contained a statue just off to the right, I don't know. Tanis yells at the statue, and this is where the thematic qualities of Dragonlance kind of start to become apparent.
Yeah.
What kind of gods are you that you demand a human sacrifice? Michael Rosenbaum's just like really not giving it at all in this scene. This is Tanis' most dramatic scene, a key turning point in his character arc, and Tanis really can't get up above like mild annoyance. We don't need you. I don't need you. Correct. But then Tanis looks a little to the right, and surprise, Goldmoon is there, just laying on the ground, unharmed.
Yep, she was just there, just chilling, just sleeping.
Goldmoon gets up. Faith is the answer, which, all right. And then as soon as Goldmoon is on her feet, Tanis walks up to the statue that he was just shouting at basically 4 seconds ago about how he hated the gods and didn't need them, and says, "I should have never doubted you."
Yeah. It's a very subtle nod to the themes of this movie, honestly.
It's a very... It really is just such a subtle bit of character development. Like the Tanis of 5 seconds ago would have never said that.
Yeah. But 5 seconds later, here we are.
So, as a result of Goldmoon basically being killed by the staff and then reborn by Mashakal, she now has natural healing powers instead of having to use the staff, which, not going to lie, is pretty cool.
That is cool.
That is really cool. She then uses this natural power to remove the scar on Tanis' face, which he got from saving Riverwind, despite the fact that he did not have a scar on his face until this scene.
We don't know if that's just poor animation or just like the fact that they just forgot.
Yes.
It's probably both.
And that's right, dear listener. The stakes in this movie are so low that not even scars are forever.
Yep.
So Goldmoon delivers a truth bomb. It turns out that the gods never actually left Kjörn. The people turned away from the gods, which is fine if you ignore the fact that the gods threw a meteor at the planet and killed millions of people.
Yeah. It's one thing if they just decided to be like, we don't want to believe in Ya anymore. But the gods threw a freaking meteor at them. So
the crater from that meteor is still smoking 300 years later.
Of course people aren't going to be too keen on those gods.
Yeah, of course people are going to be like, wow, you're kind of jerks. And here's the thing. The gods have never explained to the people why they sent the meteor. No one knows why the meteor came down.
Maybe it was explained in the novels, but not here. We don't know.
Funny thing about that, so in my research, I discovered that the gods did kind of sort of have a reason for throwing the meteor down. They basically threw the meteor down at some, crazy wizard guy who I think was trying to summon a portal to hell or something.
Oh.
So basically they nuked his, ritual site from orbit.
I see.
That said, the gods did not actually tell people why they did this.
Yeah.
And this movie goes to show that the gods are very much capable of talking to and influencing mortals. So there's no reason for them not to just tell people, yeah, sorry about this, but that guy was gonna, summon a portal to hell.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you would have made that clear, maybe people would be more forgiving. Maybe they would have been like, okay, that makes sense. We won't make portals to hell anymore.
Yeah. Instead, they're just like, what? They're just like, look, trust us, okay? Trust us.
Source. Trust me.
We really had to throw an asteroid at the planet to do that. Trust us.
Yeah. It's basically, it's stupid. Very stupid.
Very stupid. And unfortunately, it's core to the themes of the entire setting.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later.
Right.
Right now, we have to have yet another awkward expositional scene where Tasselhoff is like, man, wrestling, you're a scrub because Goldmoon can do magic naturally and you have to use those dumb magic words. And then Rassilin has to describe to Tasselhoff the differences between the cleric and wizard classes.
Yeah, because,
And that's the scene. It goes
scene.
nowhere.
And then we reach to the point of the movie where it really should have ended.
Yeah. So remember how the staff was critical to bringing the gods back?
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie doesn't.
Yeah,
it's never mentioned again. The discs are all
just gone. Now that we have the discs, that's the new.
Yeah, they're better.
Yeah, that's the new this Ex Machina here.
So Goldmoon can't read the discs, but Mashakal tells her there's someone who can. So now they have to find the MacGuffin man who can read the MacGuffins, and this is the part where Sam meant that the movie should end. A horn calls out in this abandoned ruined temple, and Sturm proclaims, "It's the armies. War has begun."
War. So,
now,
yeah.
you may be asking yourself a question. What war? What armies? Did we skip over something? Are we just skipping over notes? Did we miss some? No. It is never established, either before or after this scene, what or who the armies are supposed to be, or how a war horn reached all the way to this temple. Who are the armies?
Well, see, in the novel, it would have been explained.
Probably.
But they didn't bother to explain that here. They're just generic armies,
Yeah, they're the big off-screen armies, because we only see one army, really. We don't actually see any of the other armies in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
but they're there. Trust us.
Yeah.
They're just right over there, past the point where we have the budget to draw them.
Yeah.
So we then get a terrible pan over a poorly drawn mountain, which is mixed with a choppy montage, and finally return to Solace. Tannis is still angsty, despite the fact that Goldmoon came back to life in like a literal miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And Flint notes that the problem wasn't with the gods, but with Tannis's mental state, which...
It's too vague. Too vague.
They arrive to find Solace in flames, destroyed by the dragon guys, which I can only assume is one of the armies.
Yeah. I guess they're surprised about this, even though their tavern did get attacked, and, you know, that's the whole reason they left in the first place.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what they expected to come back to.
Maybe they expected to come back to one of the armies.
Yeah. Also, once they see that everyone's captured, all the color in the characters gets sucked out of them. Because they turned the saturation for the color orange up.
Yeah.
Just...
to make it seem like, war land.
No, it's because the dragon armies, the CG dragons, are orange. But they put it on a gray, like a grayscale background almost. So they had to mute all the other colors except for orange, because even some of like the village people, they wear orange and then they're bright as fuck, but everyone else is muted.
All right, so real quick break. I have to go to the bathroom.
Okay, that's fine.
Be right back.
Gotcha.
Mashak will guide you. Or something. Yeah.
Okay, so we're back here.
In the studio.
Yeah. We're at this point where their village is captured, and they're in...
And in the span of one panning shot, Tasselhoff gets captured off-screen by Toad, because Tasselhoff sucks.
Yep. Yeah.
This results in the entire party getting captured and put into carriages, and Tika's in this Tika is in this carriage, which means she is now part of the party.
Yep.
She will show up throughout the movie in group shots, but like Sturm, contributes absolutely nothing to the plot, which is bad enough on its own. But just you wait, because we're introduced to another completely new character who was not even remotely hinted to previously at 52 minutes and 29 seconds of this 1 hour and 31 minute movie.
Yeah. It's, elf guy.
His name is Gilthanas Cannon. He is Tannis's cousin. He is blonde.
Mm-hmm.
He is an elf.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it.
Yep. But he's here now. He's
here now. He's part of the party.
And guess who else is back? Not Gandalf. Not Gandalf's back. Hi.
A man with a cut-off arm is thrown into the carriage, and Goldmoon heals him. But it's weird, because instead of just, like, bringing his arm back, like, she just, like, heals the stump so it stops bleeding.
Yeah.
And the way she phrases the healing is, if his destiny is not yet fulfilled, please save his life. Which means if the gods wanted him to die there, he would have just died, and then she'd just look like an idiot in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Which is really messed up when you think about it.
Well, it's messed up in this case because not only were they like, no, we want him alive, but also they didn't heal his arm. They just healed the stump there.
Yeah.
But then immediately after, she tries to heal this kid who's either dying for, I can't remember if it was stab wounds or just disease.
They never explained. They say her injuries were too great, so presumably stab wounds.
So she does the same thing, same ordeal. If, her destiny isn't fulfilled, please heal her. And they don't heal her.
Well, they do heal her. They take the pain away, but she still dies.
She still dies.
kind of defeats the whole point.
Dying
of the
is
healing.
not healing, Riley. That's not how that. Still dead.
Hey, don't yell at me. Yell at this book.
Yes, I am yelling at this book movie.
So, Tannis is like, well, I guess this healing power kind of sucks then if it can't save a dying kid. But Goldmoon is like, shut your mouth. And she states that really the problem is that her faith wasn't strong enough. And if she'd been more faithful, then she could probably resurrect the dead. Because again, it's all the mortals' fault. The gods are never responsible for anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's the moral here.
So Gandalf explains the Dragonlances again.
Mm-hmm.
We already knew this.
We already knew this, but
spoiler: the Dragonlance outside of the intro is never seen, so it's a waste of time. But look at that! The plot wagon is being saved by a group of elves who all look like they're either way too old or melting.
Yeah. And,
Master Toad.
Yeah, the Master Toad is being attacked by the elf army. And while that's happening, Gandalf casts the spell Knock, which he conveniently just says knock, and the lock comes off on their, prison carriage, so...
He also has Fireball.
Yeah, Fireball also helps there, too, but...
Oh, and yeah, he is part of the party, too!
Yeah, I just mentioned that.
Yeah. No, now this party consists of over 10 people.
Yep, this party just keeps getting bigger, and
we're still not finished with party members.
We are not, no. But yeah, so this dragon army, is mad that they freed everyone.
Mm-hmm. But Master Toad is part of the offensive, but then he runs away, and he's never seen again. So he doesn't even get a death scene. He's just gone. So bye, Master Toad.
Yeah, just bye.
You're in 3 scenes.
And Elf Army saves them. They go with them, and they're back at the Elf Village. Yeah.
Also, Tika is taking part in all the fights, and she's just still wearing a barmaid uniform.
Yeah.
Now in the books, she is a major character, and she seems to wear, admittedly, very skimpy because it's the 90s chainmail. But, considering the problems this movie has had with keeping costumes consistent, this is probably for the best.
Yeah.
Fade in. No, fade out. Fade in. Now we're in the Elf Village. A new character, voiced by D. Bradley Baker, is introduced, but he's so unimportant that I didn't even bother to write down his name.
Oh, yeah.
This is his only scene.
Yeah.
So, the elves are racist against humans, because the elves blame humans for the asteroids, because the gods were big dummies who didn't tell people the reason why they sent an asteroid at the planet.
Yeah.
Blonde Elf brings Goldmoon to town, so she can talk with the Speaker of the Sun, who's, their leader, and she can... tell him about how the gods are real or whatever.
Right.
Riverwind and Tannis, who are friends now, I guess, have a bro talk, where Tannis proceeds to awkwardly dump his entire backstory about being a child of rape on him right there. Just, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely an awkward point to put that.
Hey man, how are you feeling? Yeah, I'm just feeling really bad because, I'm a child of rape and all that. Wait, what? Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
That's... yeah. Not tasteful.
No. Now, probably the only good thing about this movie is the music. The music is actually pretty good. It's not... most of the tracks aren't, amazing or anything, but they get the job done. You could listen to them. The Elf Village track in particular is actually really good.
I don't even remember. I'd play it right now, but I don't want to do that right now.
It is unmemorable, but it's not bad, which, when you're watching Dragonlance, you take what you can get.
I guess.
So, we are introduced to another new party member. It's Lorana, one of Tanis's love interests, who was introduced about an hour ago in dialogue. Like, literal throwaway dialogue. And there's about 30 minutes left on the clock.
Right.
But there's still enough time for an entire mini-arc dedicated to Tanis's love life. Fade out. Fade in. Tanis shakes his head awkwardly while smiling at a lake. Lorana is happy to see Tanis, but he's rather cold towards her. And is like, I'm not sure I want to commit, and whatever. Fade out. Fade in. The one-armed man now has a name. He never appears again, so whatever. The Speaker of the Sun is like, he doesn't believe the blonde elf guy saying that Gold Moon used healing magic. He's like, you may have mistaken witchcraft for healing, he says, in a world of magic, as he himself is a sorcerer. Luckily, Mashakal gave Gold Moon a glowing amulet that proves she's a god person. And for some reason, this makes the Speaker extremely mad, and he almost makes the elves attack the party. But Gandalf diffuses the situation. The dramatic wind returns once more as the Speaker exposits where Verminard is and what he's doing. So, now the heroes have to incite the slaves in Verminard's evil castle into rebellion and fight Verminard so that the elves can have time to, like, evacuate and leave the continent or something. Again, like, nothing has been established geographically. Like, there was no map shown at the beginning or anything, so it's just like, okay, I guess we're going there.
Yeah.
Fade out. Fade in. Tanis is by the lake again, but it's night now. He's praying to the gods, and is met by Lorana, who asks Tanis to leave with her. But Tanis rebukes her, and mostly because Tanis just kind of hates the elves. This is very important. Tanis does not like the elves.
Yeah.
Because they do not like him. And the dramatic wind blows as Tanis gives Lorana the ring that Tasselhoff stole from way before in the movie. And this ends their relationship, pretty much.
Damn. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
The next morning, after a fade-out, Tanis is now agreeing to help the elves, because the movie just kind of forgot about his whole I hate the elves character arc. He tells the party that they don't have to follow him, but the movie wants us to think that the party has somehow become friends, so they're like, we'll follow you anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure they became friends in the novel, but I don't know, I mean...
Apparently not. According to a review I read on IO9, they spend most of the novel being, like, really mad and, like, snippy to each other.
Huh. Yeah, okay, so that's even more confusing.
The blonde elf guy somehow has a crystal that opens a back door into Verminard's castle. And this door makes the noise that sounds like it comes from a 1990s computer game. Where he got this crystal, how he got this crystal, why this crystal opens a back door into the main bad guy's evil castle that the main characters have only learned about now.
Right.
I don't know. Gold Moon actually has her staff again in this scene, like the one she broke, which I guess is an animation error.
Yeah.
Speaking of animation errors, the movie is attempting to do, like, breath effects because they're, like, high up in the mountains, but they, like, massively overdo it, so it just looks like there's a constant jet of steam coming from their mouths. But wait, Lorana and her awkwardly drawn, almost, like, octagonal breasts join the party for real this time, and she's in this weird, like, form-fitting armor outfit that, of course, accentuates her breasts.
Yeah.
After a minute of walking through the caves, the party comes upon all the slaves that are in this castle, that then they're in a cage with an open gate. We get some panning shots of the slaves, and this is the absolute nadir of the movie's animation, because the style is just so radically different in these shots. The outlines are thicker, everything's more detailed. They basically look like concept art.
Yeah.
It is so jarring.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like the background artist did the models for that.
Yeah, but only for those two scenes.
For those frames. And then afterwards, everyone like starts moving around and they're the same model.
Yeah. The Karen from the beginning of the movie is back, and for some reason, when the Karen starts yelling, Rassilin smirks, because that's what Rassilin does. He smirks ominously.
He smirks.
For no reason.
Yeah.
Look, see, I can do it right now. Look.
I can't see you, Riley.
Use your imagination. Use your mind's eye.
Okay. Okay, I could see you smirking.
Yeah, you see?
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
Buy my book about that.
About smirking?
Yes. About seeing smirks with your third eye.
Seeing smirks with your third eye. Okay.
Which is the most useful application of third eyes.
Right.
So, Goldmoon uses her powers to heal this, like, random old guy in the back who's sick. And you guessed it! He's another new character! Alistan, the leader of the slaves.
Yep.
He explains, with the voice of a very bored infomercial announcer, that everyone's children are being kept hostage, which is why they haven't left the cage, even though the cage door is open. So now the party has to rescue the kids. And you know how Lorana is wearing armor?
Yes.
So earlier in the elf village, she was wearing this, like, hippie getup with, like, a leather skirt and a leather jacket.
Yeah, like...
But now she's wearing armor because she's getting serious.
Yes.
Apparently not all the animators got the memo, though, because in between cuts, her armor... She returns to her, like, leather outfit. Especially in group shots.
Yeah,
where...
at like, certain editing portions, when they're in the prison with the slaves.
Right.
It's just, like, it goes back and forth between her wearing armor and her in her, like, default village outfit. That's it.
And I think I know why. Because I think those crowd scenes are made by just taking, like, the character drawings and pasting them on there. Like, the things you make during production.
Oh,
like
definitely.
the character models.
Definitely. That's definitely it.
Which is not only lazy, but how do you screw that up so bad?
Yeah, it's definitely something you shouldn't have missed.
And so the party has to rescue the kids.
They come up with the best plan ever.
The best plan ever.
The best plan.
Sam, do you want to describe the plan?
Well, this plan is very, it hasn't aged too well. Basically, it involves them disguising themselves as the children's mothers. Now, you may be wondering, why not just, have the children's mothers go in and maybe, like, the few women party members go with them to make it more convincing. But no, they have everyone dress up as the children's
all the party
mothers.
members.
Yeah, all the party members. Because they need to get in there. Now, that's understandable. You want everyone to be in there, that way they could rescue them, because presumably there's a giant dragon guarding them.
And you never split the party.
Yeah, you never split the party. But, it's treated as comedy that, the male party members have to pretend to be women, and it's so funny. It's just it's so funny, and the dragon guards are like being as creepy as they usually are.
Yeah, apparently they're sex pests.
Yeah,
because they just like because they're just like, I'd like to take you for a spin. Which makes Tanis so angry that his eyes glitter.
Yeah, literally Tanis almost blows his cover because for some reason the Dragon Guard decides to lick, like, cleric character.
No, I think it's Lorana.
Lorana, yeah. And he almost blows the cover.
There's that human rage.
That human rage.
That human rage that was dropped an hour ago.
But luckily, they, I think one of the other party members steps in. Oh, yeah, the dwarf steps in. And he's just like, we need to see the children. Please let us see the children. So they go in and they see the children. And they find out.
Who was with the children?
They find out a dragon's with the children. But the crazy thing about this is that this dragon... Sorry, I'm rewatching the scene right here. Like without audio, just to see.
That's fate. The gods are telling you something.
Yeah. But basically the dragon's insane because the dragon thinks that those children are her children. So they just like...
And also she's blind.
Yeah, she's also blind. So that's a thing. And so the party's very easily able to convince them that, like, oh, we're just gonna take them out to get exercise. Which she buys, because, you know, that's just how that happens. And that's how that plays out. So they rescue the children, and they're like...
That's literally it. That was the whole plan.
That was the whole plan.
That was the whole scene.
Yeah, it was just such a brilliant plan. So now all they have to do is take the rest of the prisoners and leave the mountain.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard.
It shouldn't be too hard. In fact, it's made very easy because right outside, the dragon army is getting ready to do something, but they're so caught up.
It's not clear. Well, hold on. First, you're getting ahead of yourself.
I am, but honestly, it's so the evil bad guy is there, basically hyping them up.
So, basically what happens is that the party tries to, like, leave the way they came, but there are, like, 5 dragon guys there.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you know, we have 60 people, but we can't fight them. And Tasselhoff's like, well, why don't we just, I don't know, go through the front gate? Everyone's like, okay.
That's a good idea, you know? Great idea. But...
And, yeah, so as Sam was describing, all of the dragon guys are out here just kind of cheering for some reason.
I think evil simp bad guy is, like, hyping them up to do something.
He's not even there, though. It's one of his, like, random cronies.
Oh, was it? Yeah, like, that's right. It was. It was. So, it's just this guy is just like, yeah, we're hyping up everything, and all these dragon soldiers are like, yeah, and they're so invested that no one turns around to see the 60 plus people leaving through the front door.
And they're not sneaking or anything. They just literally bolt for it.
Yeah.
and they basically just hoping that no one turns around. Shockingly, someone turns around and their plan kind of fails.
Yeah, they almost made it, to their credit. But, yeah.
Verminard appears now. And, like, at the 1 hour and 15 mark of the movie, this is the first time the protagonist and the antagonist have met.
Yeah.
Or have even been in close physical proximity to one another.
Finally shows up.
Amazingly.
I think he's on a dragon or something.
He is on a dragon. And he goes... in the hammiest voice known to man, I offered you the chance to work with my queen! Now you will pay with your lives! Yeah, you know. Verminard's dragon breathes fire on the gathered people, killing a ton of his own guys, but also 99% of the people the heroes came to rescue. Yeah. Which, in other words, means the party kind of completely failed and got a bunch of innocent people killed through their own stupidity.
Which delivers us the best moment of this movie. The best.
First, Makuta turns into a hot chick for some reason.
Yeah. For some reason. But then, after said people get charred and burned alive.
To the point where they are all, like, black. They're charred black. Their bodies are just obsidian black.
Clearly dead. Clearly dead. Main character decides to go down, and he still has some optimism in him. He's like, is there anyone we can save?
And Goldmoon's just like, no. So the fighting So all this fighting has created a hole in the ground where, conveniently, the old crazy dragon lady is living. And so she fights Verminard's dragon because Verminard's dragon is hurting her kids. Verminard, falls 10 feet, 30 feet, but luckily he's immune to fall damage. Gandalf shoots a fireball at the front gate.
Yeah.
Which, as we see from the shot, still has a bunch of people around it. And the resulting shockwave was enough to throw Gandalf into a chasm. Gandalf and Tasselhoff. And so, and he was standing 40 feet away. So most of those people by the gate are probably dead, sheerly from the force of the blast.
Yeah.
Because everyone in this movie is incompetent.
Yeah, so in short, basically everyone they tried to rescue is probably dead.
The majority of the party flees with the few people who aren't dead, while a few remain to fight Verminard. Tika makes out with Caramon, since I guess they became a couple.
Yep.
You know, she was just really into him, objectifying her and eating those potatoes.
Yep. Just really into each other. Like that.
They were just really into each other's potatoes.
She liked him as much as she liked potatoes.
And men eating potatoes.
Yep.
Sloppily.
Yep.
The Lorana, now drawn in what looks like clip art, like she's so unbelievably flat, stares longingly at Tanis. As Verminard approaches, somehow Rastalin knows that Verminard is a cleric of Takesis. Verminard proceeds to mop the floor with the party, beating the living crap out of them. Sturm continues to suck as Verminard defeats him by throwing a pin at him. A magic pin that locks him in place. More innocent people then get killed when the old dragon slams into the ground during the fight. So, good job, heroes.
Good job.
Verminard proceeds to make his college thesis statement, where he points out that there's little evidence that the gods have come back since they are not helping at all during this whole world-ending crisis, other than giving Goldmoon some powers. Flit feels tired while fighting, but Riverwind calls him old, which drives Fint to shout that he's not old.
He's not old, and that motivates him to just beat the shit out of everyone.
Yeah!
Because he's not old.
And that is the culmination of his character arc.
I hope you like that character.
Yeah, this is what the movie's been leading up to. That. So, Verminard yells that the prophecy is broken! Because apparently there was a prophecy in this movie somewhere. First we're hearing about it.
Yeah. Part of me feels like Ferdinand was just told that there was a prophecy and just was so caught up in it, but then no one else, he was the only one who was told about the prophecy, and so everyone else is just like, what? The fuck?
Tanis continues to doubt that the good gods are helping because, they've kind of abandoned all of humankind for stupid reasons. But Verminard remains fully faithful in Makuta. However, Tanis, having just an itsy-bitsy little more faith in the gods, literally Deus Ex Machinas the plot to its conclusion. Because it turns out Gandalf, the, Alzheimer's patient who's been bumbling around all movie, was actually, the best god of them all, the leader of the good gods. And Takesis is like, no, the prophecy is broken, I won. And he's just like, no, and throws her off a chasm, and then she dies? Question mark?
Just, damn.
And it's at this point we have to talk about the themes of the Dragonlance setting and why it doesn't really work.
Yes.
So, we've talked over and over about the fact that this movie, especially in its second half, really likes to mortal blame.
Yeah.
It's always constantly shifting responsibility away from the gods and on to the mortals of the setting. It's always, oh, we're so wrong for having turned away from the gods. There was no reason to do that, because the gods are just so inherently good and awesome and amazing. Man, we really should have trusted them on that whole asteroid thing.
Yeah, then again, it's like, we're given no reason to show that most of the gods were good here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with the exception of whatever god was giving the cleric the healing abilities, most of the gods...
Mashakal.
Yeah, Mashakal.
And even then, that was mostly because Goldmoon just kind of died.
Yeah.
And after that, it's just like, oh, sorry, can't save your dying kid because I don't have enough faith.
Yeah. And it creates just this very bad, like, I guess, dynamic relationship between, like, people who would believe in a higher power or whatever. And it's just like, you know, when you constantly blame mortals, it's like, when you constantly blame the people, it's just, you know, you could do that for anything. I don't know.
And
yeah,
what doesn't help is that the movie's whole message is have faith in the gods, but it doesn't do a good job of, like, discriminating between Verminard's faith versus Tanis's faith.
Yeah.
Like, Takesis is a goddess. The movie flat out says that she's a goddess.
Yeah.
She's not a false god or a necromancer pretending to be a god or anything.
Yeah.
So, by the movie and the setting's own logic, Verminard's faith should really be just as valid as anyone else's.
Right.
But it isn't, because he chose the bad god.
The bad one.
Who's bad.
And also, I think there are plenty of, like, village people here who did have faith, like, a lot of faith that someone would come and rescue them, but I think they're kind of dead. A lot of them are.
Yeah. Now, a lot of this makes more sense when you discover the fact that most of the setting's authors are Mormon.
Yes.
And that theology influences a lot of this movie and just the Dragonlance setting as a whole when it comes to gods and such.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having not read the books, I cannot say 100% if those themes really overpower the books or the adventure modules or whatnot. But they do in this movie, and from what I've heard, it does do that a little in the setting.
Yeah, I mean...
And this is kind of what pushes the movie over from just being a really bizarre animated movie to a really bizarre animated movie that has some kind of problematic ideas about religion and faith.
Oh, yeah. Like, I don't think this is, like, a good display of that.
It's
not. You know?
It's really not.
Having faith is a healthy thing to do. You know, believing in a higher power, that lifts people up, and that's good.
Yeah.
But when you're at the point where you're like, if your life's not going well and you're like, oh, it's because I don't have enough faith, it's just like, that becomes problematic.
Yeah. Especially when you apply it to, like,
Real.
The whole world.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, that's kind of the ideology of the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, it's just not good.
It's not good.
You know.
So anyway, the day is saved, and none of the party suffers any permanent effects from getting the absolute crap beat out of them by Verminard, because stakes do not exist in the Dragonlance universe.
Yep. Everyone.
The party then proceeds to defeat Verminard by stabbing him twice.
Yep.
Why they didn't just do this to begin with is a question for the ages. And then Old Dragon and Verminard's dragon both die when they crash into a volcano.
I like how stabbing the guy in the legs earlier did nothing to him, but the fact that he got stabbed 3 times in the legs and he walked it off, but when you stab the villain 2 times, he's dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, what were you saying before?
I don't think I was saying anything before.
Oh, I thought I interrupted you twice. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Because Gandalf just kind of disappeared after he became his after he entered Super Saiyan mode to fight Makuta, Tasselhoff believes Gandalf is dead, which may have led into character development in later books, but those ain't getting adapted, so who cares?
Yeah.
And Tasselhoff is such a psychopath that he has never felt sadness before, and when he's crying, he's just like, Tanis, what is this? I've never felt this feeling before. And it's just, God, you suck.
You've never felt sadness before, ever, at all.
Yeah, I guess it didn't feel bad when Sturm died, or Goldmoon died, or Tanis almost died. But no, for Gandalf, yeah, you feel bad about Gandalf. He told you stories. Selfish little jerk.
Yeah. So we get to the final epilogue point.
Alastan approaches the party. Remember that old guy who was introduced out of nowhere, and reveals that he can read the discs, meaning he's the chosen leader who will save the world. Yeah, this guy they just randomly ran into in the dungeon.
Yeah.
He's the MacGuffin guy they had to find.
Yeah.
Why not at this point?
Yeah, why not? You know, gotta make that party as big as possible. By the last book, I want it to be like a party of 30 people. Just.
All right, fade out, fade in. Goldmoon and Riverwind are married by Alastan, who is now a priest now, because Riverwind and Goldmoon solved their relationship drama, I guess. Who the fuck cares? Movie's over. Oh, and yeah, you know Alastan, that really old dude who's like in his 60s? And you know Lorana, that like really young elf girl who was Tanis's girlfriend? She and Alastan are making out now.
Wow.
They're a thing.
That's not problematic at all.
Do you think that this kind of comes out of nowhere and makes no sense?
It does.
It does.
Does it explain it in the novel at all?
I don't know. I couldn't really find anything about it.
All right.
So, maybe that's just a movie original thing.
Oh, God.
Who knows? Tanis speaks with Rastalin, and Rastalin's brooding. Tanis is like, come on, celebrate. But Rastalin is like, the war has just begun. Which, it hasn't. He explains that the only way to win the war with the dragons, which I guess is still on despite the dragon god lady getting killed, and also we were fighting the dragons? I thought we were fighting Verminard and the dragon guys who were just like humanoid dragons. Anyway, they need the Dragonlances. So, yes, this movie is ending on yet another MacGuffin hunt. And no, the Dragonlances do not actually make any appearances in the Dragonlance movie.
It doesn't.
Tanis watches as Lorana and old man Alastan walk off to a presumably happy ending. He feels bad about not going for Lorana, since she's dating Alastan now. Right now, Tanis is just hoping his other girlfriend is still alive. Meanwhile, in the Badlands, it's revealed that Kitayana, his other love interest, you know, that lady who hasn't been really mentioned for like an hour, is actually part of Verminard's Dragon Lord bad guy army.
No.
And that's it. That's where the movie ends.
Yeah, basically she's given like this Thanos-style tease.
Oh, yeah.
And just, that's it. As if they were going to make another entry here.
As if, like, you know, you have to wonder, did the people who wrote, directed, and animate this really look at this and say, yeah, this is going to get a sequel?
I just also want to point out that the credits are, like, edited in the worst, like, way possible.
Yeah, all the characters are just like clip art, and then they keep zooming from one angle to the
not
next.
Not even that, but when they get to the actual credits scroll, like it's split in the middle, so that way it's like it's inverted.
What?
Yeah, don't you remember that?
No, I never actually got to the credits.
Oh my god!
Scroll.
Hold on, let me show you. Hold on.
I've never gotten to the credits scroll. I just stop whenever the special credits played.
I gotta show you this. Okay. Sorry, listeners.
You can watch this movie for yourself on YouTube.
Unless if it gets taken down for whatever reason, but hopefully not.
Which considering that there's like 5 versions of it on YouTube, it probably won't.
Yeah, you'll probably be able to find this. All right.
I don't think anyone cares about this movie.
All right, so come here, Riley.
Wait, come where?
I posted the link there.
Together.
Yeah.
You could have sent me a screenshot.
No, I gotta show you this. Okay, so look at the.
Oh,
look at
God.
the. Okay, hold on. I gotta get to where it starts. All right.
What?
And then.
Why? Oh, it's horrible. Okay, so like, not only is it split, but the credits are like bent at a 30-degree angle.
I know. It's like they tried to make it 3D almost, but.
Didn't they see the 3D animation in the rest of this movie?
It's just there for no reason. I don't know why they did that. I really don't.
Why did they even do this movie? It's not like Dragonlance was really all that poppin' in 2008.
Yeah, it wasn't, but... Yeah, that's the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Suffice to say, this did not get a sequel, but to anyone that cares, this is basically the fates of all the main characters.
Oh, yes, we got to go through and just see what happens.
So, Stern dies in the second book.
Oh, no.
But he comes back.
Are you fucking serious?
Not only does he come back, but he proceeds to have a drunken one-night stand with Kit Yara, his best friend's ex-girlfriend.
What?
Which gets her pregnant and results in a daughter.
Ah, great. So this is truly becoming one of the worst characters. Like, oh my god, they tried to kill him off twice, and each time he came back.
So Tanis, as that might imply, does not end up getting with Kitiara. I guess her relationship with Alistan didn't work out, because Lorana ends up with Tanis by the end, so that's nice. But then Tanis gets shot in the back with an arrow and dies.
Ah, dang.
As mentioned before, Tasselhoff gets stomped on by a giant, but then through some Teen Tony shenanigans is brought forward into the future, causing a time paradox that threatens to destroy the world, that is only resolved by him going back to when he's supposed to die and actually dying.
Fine. Okay.
Flint dies of a heart attack because he's old.
Ah, damn.
Riverwind ends up basically going on a suicide quest to fight a giant monster because he's dying of, get this, stomach cancer.
Stomach cancer. Just, okay.
And so, by the end, Rassilin dies eventually, but not before he proceeds to go full on evil, gain godlike time powers, and nearly destroy the world, with the only thing stopping him being the gods giving him the It's a Wonderful Life montage of how the world will become a barren wasteland as his brother will die if he uses his powers.
I see.
And Caramon gets really sad about this, so he gets fat, but then he gets better.
Okay.
Blonde elf guy ends up dating a dragon lady, like a dragon kind of like Onyx, but he's racist, so they break up, and then that's the end of that.
Yeah. And,
then the line kind of culminated in a second apocalypse happening.
Oh.
Like a second asteroid thing. And, so basically this movie was just a complete waste of time.
Wow. So...
But the franchise still has life.
It
was announced 2 years ago in 2018, or maybe 2019, I don't remember, that a new trilogy of Dragonlance novels would be released by the original authors, no less.
Oh. Okay.
And then they got canceled.
What, the novels or the authors?
The novels.
Okay, I was about to say.
Well, kind of both, question mark? Because the novels were canceled according to the lawsuit filed by the authors of those books. The trilogy was canceled in large part because the guy who was running the D&D division at the time got canceled. And so, Wizards of the Coast kind of wanted to avoid that happening again, so they canned the series. Because, I don't know, I guess, maybe the guy who wrote about a mini fantasy franchise about how mortals are always at fault for every bad thing that happens may have some cancelable traits.
Yeah.
Another thing is that in the lawsuit, he basically says, like, Wizards of the Coast demanded that, like, inclusivity changes be made to the stuff we wrote. And we did it, which, okay.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they filed the lawsuit over it. And then stopped filing the lawsuit when Wizards of the Coast changed their mind, and now the novel trilogy is back on.
Okay. Huh.
And also the authors of Dragonlance are working on a new setting for D&D, which is news that broke like 3 days ago.
Oh shit! Really?
At the time of this recording.
Damn.
Yeah. So, yeah, they've been busy.
Okay.
Dragonlance, in spite of this movie, is still popping.
Well, hey, I mean, I guess it works. I guess. I don't see the appeal in it. Like, if anything, this just represented the aspects of D&D that kept me away from D&D. But I guess it could have been a decent story if, maybe they didn't try to cram the whole novel into one movie.
Yeah. And, yeah, that's Dragonlance.
That is Dragonlance.
So where would you put this on the top 10 list?
Oh, on the top 10 list, well, I mean, I'd give it like... See, that's a tough thing, because you have to consider a lot of factors. And I'm considering those right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would give it probably... I'd put it at Dragonlance.
I'm gonna disagree with you there.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna put it at World of Darkness out of 10.
World of Darkness out of 10. I don't even know if it deserves to be on like a 10 rating system. I feel like I'm just gonna put it at... I would give it 8 dragons out of 10 lances.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's a more accurate and appropriate rating for this project.
Yeah, I would have given it 10 lances, but Hasselhoff didn't die.
Yeah,
that's a real turnoff for me.
Yeah, too many characters didn't die.
Mm-hmm. And when they did die later in the franchise, it was really underwhelming.
It really was. Yeah. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to this. This was a large one, but there was a lot to cover here. So we appreciate y'all for sticking around through this.
And unlike the movie, we weren't going to cut the entire movie down into 1 hour.
Yeah. So, thanks for listening. Next time, we have a very big project planned.
Yes, next time, probably in the next 5 or 10 months, considering our schedule so far.
Exactly, yeah.
We'll be discussing a Christopher Nolan reinvention of a famous Japanese hero that didn't do that.
It unfortunately didn't. But...
stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. See ya.
Oh, and also, just real quick, Dragonlance also has an unofficial fan-made musical in Russian.
So definitely go check that out.
Yes. Apparently it is actually good.
Well, you know, they could say it's good, but we'll be the sole deciders on that.
I mean, can you speak Russian?
No.
Next time, Top 10 Kamen Rider the first. A jump to the sky turns into a faceplate.